才5岁，让一个5岁宝宝前往天之大陆，我们也不放心呐。这没玉佩你带着，这可是一枚神王器，有了它，你可以随意调节你的实力等级。
多谢师祖。滴血认主之后，严离将自己的实力调节到0了。
灵儿，我还以为你会调到神级以下1级啊，谁知道你竟然直接调灵王了。
师祖，你难道忘记了我才5岁啊？一个5岁的灵王已经很吓人了。之前为了比团实力，我都尽量不使用灵力的。
懂得隐藏锋芒，难得呀。
自己懂得隐藏锋芒，那是因为自己上一世吃了亏了。师祖，我该回清明峰了吧？
灵儿，你就这么狠心将你师祖给抛下了？哎，你看看，在这悬崖上，我一个老头子实在孤单呐，没忍心啊。
可是我不回去，师叔会找齐的。
放心吧，我已经通知雇员那小子了。
这样啊，可是在这悬崖顶上好无聊啊。
不会无聊，不会无聊。灵儿，不如师祖教你制作卷轴，这样你就不会无聊了。之前呢，你不是领悟空间之力了吗？师祖教你制作空间传送卷轴，如何呀？
师祖也领悟了空间之力啦。
那是自然了。不如师祖先带你逛一圈。
老头子说完，就带着严离出了灵境，之后就利用空间之力消失在悬崖顶上了。等严离回过神来，他发现自己已经到达了一处风景如画的地方，而自己面前一群老头子正好奇地盯着自己看。
少主，你带来的这个小丫头是谁呀？
其中一个老头看向严离的师祖问道：“
他是我的徒孙严离，我带他过来玩。各位老头啊，快过来给我家离儿送见面礼呀！”
师祖，这是哪里啊？
离儿，这里是这些家伙们的聚居之地，叫月明之关。来，离儿，这位是司徒老头，快叫司徒师祖。
司徒师祖好。
离儿好。
Distinguished guest, His Excellency Mr. President Lai Ching-te has arrived. Please join me in welcoming His Excellency with a big round of applause. Welcome. Mr. President Lai is accompanied by the Chairman of the Prospect Foundation, Dr. Chen Tangshan, and the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Dr. Lin Jialong. Welcome. Thank you all for joining us today at the Ketagalan Forum 2025 Indo-Pacific Security Dialogue. Welcome. Once again, thank you all for joining us today at the Ketagalan Forum 2025 Indo-Pacific Security Dialogue. Please take a seat. Welcome.
这丫头肯定是故意的吧？我可以根治。
离儿，别跟你林师祖开玩笑了，他这心机啊，就连你药师祖都没办法根治。
Thank you so much once again for joining us today in the opening ceremony.
我真的可以根治，不信就算了。
相信他，我们离儿说做得到就是做得到。什么？离儿还小，胡闹就算了，你怎么也跟着胡闹起来了？
离儿，你是不是真的很想试？
我想为元老组医治，严离点点头，因为能看得出来，元老头太太医治已经活不过3年了。如此强者与李过的话，实在是可惜了。
那就是吧。
老头，这个事关你的生命，你怎么也跟着胡闹起来了？
老丫头啊，这有什么关系？最坏的结果就是治好。反正我也没有多少时间好活了，满足下离儿的愿望。又如何呢？
林师祖，我真的可以治好你。
我相信你，离儿。
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Ketagalan Forum 2025 Indo-Pacific Security Dialogue, hosted by the Prospect Foundation and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. To begin, I'd like to invite the Chairman of the Prospect Foundation, Dr. Chen Tangshan, to deliver his opening remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Dr. Chen Tangshan. Welcome.
此时，他们不禁开始有些期待。他们期待严离并不是小孩子的玩闹，而是真的能够医治云老头的心悸。达成之后，严离明显松了一口气。
离儿，你是神级炼药师？
算是吧。
算是。
是啊，这是我第一次尝试炼制。
离儿，你承担了多少颗
？999颗吧。
990颗，还是第一次炼制神奇的药。离儿，你是妖怪吗？
药师祖，淡定一点。之前我第一次炼制圣级丹药，就炼制了999颗，我师傅就十分淡定。
离儿，你这炼制的是什么丹药啊？
心脉丹，林师祖，先服下1颗，咱们再进行第一次治疗。
好，离儿，这心脉丹的丹方我遍寻不到，不知道你这是从哪里得到的？
偶然间得到的。 眼里总不能告诉他是自己上辈子得到的吧？
你这丫头运气还真是啊！云老头的运气也好，有了新买单呢，即使不能根治，云老头再撑上几十年也不是问题了。
时间差不多了，云师祖，咱们进行第一次治疗吧。看着他拿着银针，朝着云老头的心外处扎了几针，他们还是紧张地握紧了拳头。众人都默默地看着眼里治疗，随着时间一分一秒流逝，眼里的脸色也苍白了起来。他们很想帮眼里擦擦汗，可是被药长老制止了，因为药长老知道，此时的眼里最忌的就是打扰，在众人紧张的等待中，眼里终于收起了手中的动作。只见他擦了一把冷汗，顺便还服用了一颗补灵丹，将手中的银针收了起来。
丽儿，云老头如何了？
已经没事了，不过还得再施3次针才能痊愈。药长老闻言，震惊地拉过云老头的手，检查了起来。
李儿说的没错，李儿可真是神童啊！药师祖自会不如。
林师祖，由于你的心急太久了，即使痊愈，心脉还是很脆弱。这些心脉丹你收着，1天服用1颗，可以达到温养的作用。
丽儿，这些可都是神级丹药。
我知道呀，这些本来就是为云师祖炼制的，这些本来就是为云师祖炼制的。
那就多谢丽儿了。
既然云老头还需要再施3次针，那么我们只能在这里住几天。
稍作笑着看向严离，好，知道严离要在这里住几天，各位老头都想送严离一些东西，还因此争抢了起来。现在的严离简直就成了明月之端的团宠了。最终，严离挑了几样自己比较感兴趣的学习，其他老头见状，还是将各自的绝学制作成秘籍，注入严离的眉心，让他有空的时候翻出来学习一下。每月给云老头施针之后，各位老头就带着严离在月明之端乱转，四处寻宝。回来之后再教导严离修炼，因此严离在月明之端的日子也不会觉得无聊，反而是觉得十分充实。严离为云老头施过3次针之后，云长老彻底痊愈。本来在云长老痊愈之后，严离就该离开了，可是月明之端的老头们十分不舍，根本就不想放人。由于严离修炼的几套功法也刚刚开始，因此商洛就决定将严离放在月明之端，给各位老头们教导一段时间。当鲁渊尊者知道自己还没忤逆了李二，被月明之端的那些老头给抢了，那可是郁闷了好久。他每天的怨气看着叶枫都十分无语。转眼2年时间过去了，此时的李宝宝从5岁变成了7岁，即将迎来他8岁的生辰。在月明之端的这2年时间里，严离一直在各位老头的指导下修炼，可以说老头们的各种功法他已经修炼得炉火纯青了，实力已晋级到神王了。由于没有找到7色火中的绿果，即使他再努力修炼，实力也只能停留在神王，无法再突破，无法再突破。
丽儿又在孵蛋了。
林老头的声音传来，自己明明就是抱着荆棘正在惆怅，好吗？
丽儿，别发愁了，看看这是什么？
是7色火中的绿果。
这下开心了。
李老祖，这是哪里来的？
前几天你药老祖出去参加一个炼药师盛会了，难道你忘了？
这是药师祖从炼药师盛会上买回来的。
是换回来的。
药师祖真好。
药师祖好，其他师祖就不好了。
话音刚落，各位老头笑着走了进来。师祖们都好，都对李儿好。
就丽儿嘴甜，丽儿，我祝你解除封印。
云老祖慈爱地看向严离。好，随着一声声响，严离体内的绿色封印解开了。绿色封印解除之后，严离身上开始闪出晋级锋芒，直接从神王晋级到神帝。
李儿可真是了不得的孩子，7岁的神童，这说出去还跟傻子一般骗人呢。
药老头好笑地说道。
那是，李尔可是我的徒子，有什么比得上？就是李尔的天赋跟领悟力也是举世难寻的。
The geopolitical security landscape in the Indo-Pacific. And number 2, countering hybrid warfare and strengthening all of society defense resilience. And number 3, the impacts of economic, technological, and industrial diplomacy on international politics. Those are 3 important topics we'll be discussing. We understand our is a really rapid changing world, and the vigorous of time politics compels us to be on the lookout for new threats, new responses,
师傅，你不是还要教我制作传送卷轴吗？
难道司徒老头没教你？
But in order to do this,
都能制作出各种卷轴吗？
we need to clearly identify our opponents,
真的才怪。
the means by which they seek to undermine
好，去
and
拿出一个
defeat
卷轴
us,
制作了起来，制作完之后将手中的卷
and
轴
the ways
打到沙漠。
这是什么卷轴啊？
by which we can
难道是个失败品？
respond,
师祖，快躲开！一旁严
we
厉警告，
can
赶紧去护
mitigate
着。
and counter.
只见轰隆一声，一道天雷直接劈了下来，将满脸懵逼的沙漠。
So from the threat, we understand from this threat
我不是让你快
of
躲开的，
traditional
是我自己
warfare
创造的引雷卷轴。
to the use of
他
new
们清楚就知道，
technologies
严厉看小沙漠说。
and from the
不是，师
threshold
祖，
of
灵儿真的不是故意的。
conventional
他就
war
是故意的。想当初他刚创造出这个引雷卷轴的时候，第一遭殃的就是教他们制作卷轴的司徒老头。后来由于司徒老头性格使然，于是就带着严厉将月明师的
and
传
technological
踢
advances.
过去。那一天的月明
So
师
this is
还
the
是
world
十分热闹了。沙漠心想，我
that
自己
faces
才坏，
us
我
today.
看你就是故意的。
李二，你都可以自己创造卷轴
If we
了，
put
师祖是没什么可以教你的了，师祖
our
是没
minds
什么可以教你的了。
师祖，
I
李二
believe,
今天再待一天，
as we are doing today here,
回清明宗吧。
好，
但是我们可说好了，
and with a shared sense of
没
mission,
问题。师祖，下
I'm
次
quite
我会
confident
带朱师兄做的肉包子，可好吃
that we
了。
can learn
这东西我都
important lessons
不过既然理论说好吃，
from
那一
origins
定很好吃。
四人当五元尊者刚起来走进
come
房
up
间，见到
with
坐在
a
那里的严
series
师，
of
还以为自
best
己出现幻觉了。沙漠
practices
将严离送到，自己就离开了。
that will
他说
allow
想
us
跟严
to
师单住一段时间。
prevail
师叔，你还没睡醒呢。
in what
李二，你知足
2 minutes
总算舍得放你回来。
这两年里，
may
师
seem
傅
like
们都以为严离在
say
去
that
云峰修炼，
impossible
就连什么活动都没参加，
task
就连新弟子历练也没参加。是啊，
And
师祖可烦我了。
maybe
我
like
看
an
呀，你师祖是被你烦
dark
得
time,
受不了
but
了，
I
才
think
叫
we can
啊，微微姐，
penetrate through and we can do it. So I want to, on behalf of the Prospect Foundations and all our staff members and the friends from Ministry of Foreign Affairs, everybody here, to thank you again for being with us today. And I wish you all a day of enlightenment, constructive exchanges of ideas, and most importantly, renewed friendships. So once again, thank you very much for coming to this very important meaningful meeting. Thank you again.
Thank you very much for the remarks, Chairman Dr. Chen Tangshan. Thank you. Please return to your seat. Thank you very much. Once again, we'd like to thank Dr. Chen Tangshan for his opening remarks, such powerful and inspiring speech. Thank you very much. Please return to your seat.
最近多了，要求你。
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's our great privilege and distinct honor to have His Excellency Mr. President Lai Ching-te to address the opening ceremony of Ketagalan Forum 2025 Indo-Pacific Security Dialogue. Now, please join me in welcoming His Excellency Mr. President Lai Ching-te for his remarks. Welcome.
探测仪也被随意的甩在场。五，所有人总算是有一点勇气，此时算是过了第一关了。刚才就连叶飞白都做好了战斗准备，毕竟就差这么一步就暴露。浩明十分淡定，
Prospect
将3盒香烟
Foundation
分别
Chairman
都递出
Chen
了3盒。
Tangshan,
小李子今天速度有点慢啊，
former
多得几
UK
个小
Prime
时了，
Minister
可算是
Boris Johnson,
浩明在组织内发明。
Minister
是
of
一
Foreign
处理塔式的
Affairs
局面，
Lin Jialong,
说白了也就是一打杂的。
former
他平日里
French
所表现性格和善，然而他对于他的态度相当不错，更是没有丝毫尊重。毕竟这样更利于他指派工作。眼前3人更是开
experts
朗
and scholars from around the
就
world.
像是那太监的名字一样。
All the
浩明并没有生气，
distinguished
反而
guests
是连连
here
讪笑道歉
today.
路上肚子太饿了，就吃了夜宵，
This
浪费
year
了时
marks
间。
the
下次
9th
快点，
year
不然这
of
新奇的
the
烟钱我们可
Ketagalan
别。
Forum.
此话一出，
Over the
他们皆是
years,
哈哈大笑起来。
this key
欧几
festival
把片，下
has
次我
brought
想派
together
我去给他们送
government
烟去，根本没人在意浩明在
and
说什么，
scholars from
有没有
around
这
the
些？
world.
在他们眼
For
里，
dialogue
浩明不过
on
是一头
all
发。
aspects
浩明转身
of
离开，走
Indo-Pacific
出了大厅，
security.
入眼的便一道长长的走
On
廊，
behalf of the
地上铺
people
着
of
紫色的地
Taiwan,
毯， 地毯之上还有一些相当有刺激的图案。这里的装修每时每刻似乎都想唤醒欲望。走廊两边有很多彩标签，和酒店的布景没有什么区别。不过房间上的标签可没这么简单。校园、教室、监狱、墓地。说实话，墓地有的部分，要是叶飞白看到那，必定要吐槽几句。不过此刻走廊中正处于监视他，他不敢探出脑袋来参观参观。镜头右拐，敲响了中标签的房间。小李子立刻算来了，一名穿着拖鞋的小年轻叫欧巴。接过报纸，年前下次再见。我这里还要推出一客户，说罢小心点点向房子关上。报名去迅速向房间内探了探，只见房间中摆着几台电脑，5名头发圆润的小年轻正在电脑前，其中一人还拿手机发着语音。小姐姐，你别犹豫，我这待遇真的非常好，你来当服务员，1个月随随便便80千，完全够你用的。再说你的未成年，还想找多好的工作？报名笑笑，与大家打个招呼。哟，都在，奈何几名精神小伙根本不想，甚至连头也不敢抬。行了好了，我们还得忙。说罢，小年轻就将号码推出了房间。报名压低声音说道：“负责拐卖的人员都在。收到，这间房子资料相当完整，可以作为十分有利的证据。说罢，报名向走廊尽头的房间。这里是监控室，监控室中24小时都有人，执行着3班轮班倒的工作制度。所以，光是监控室的人员就300人，其中2人关系相当不错，时不时便会在监控室一起聊天吹牛。所以也会出现监控室多人的情况。如果有2个人，想要在不暴露的情况下控制现场，即便是有人控制2人行为，也没办法管住2人的嘴巴，很容易被发现。但如今了，有了500的加密局势，一概不免。监控室门口，浩明做好准备后，直接敲响房门。另一位的警官心再次悬了起来。我希望监控室中只有1人，凭借浩明的本事，绝对能将那人毫无声息地弄死。咚咚咚。谁啊？一名身材瘦弱、长相猥琐的年轻人将房门打开，脸上写满了难色。不过当看到来人是浩明后，脸上当即变得不开朗。哟，李哥快请进，这是来给我送烟来了。年轻男相当机灵，他当然知道眼前这人乃是自己的财主好友，毕竟上哪找天天天险给自己带麻烦事。当然了，浩明笑了笑向房间里走。房间不小，少说也有50平，硕大一块屏幕之上也分成了好几个小屏幕。每个小屏幕上便代表着一处实时记录，如此规模，甚至比派出所街道监控还要复杂，且设备的清晰度也是相当可靠。但是此时房间中可不止一人，也不止2人。3人，一名身材瘦弱的年轻人，一名满身肥膘的大汉，还有一名年纪稍大的光头佬。还真是难得见到你们3人都在监控室。这么晚的休息，你们怎么犯法？浩明脸色自然。但心中已经畅快。眼下情况超预期，3人在这种情况下，想要同时控制，那简直是不可能的事情。眼镜收起来来，刚好我可以收入很大，怎么能忘记实际睡觉呢？是啊，反正待在楼上，还有我们胖子的光头佬一副独立的大脸，监控室的人对浩明的态度，图的是能够办下法的。根据声音，叶飞白也看出室内有3个人，这似乎已经超出他们计划的预期。你们坐，和咱们吹吹牛聊聊天呗。浩明不是自然的动作，笑脸迎分辨3人。房间中充满了一股腥臭味，嗅觉里叶飞白那叫一个难受，恨不得赶紧将3人直接解决掉。浩明，眼下情况我们还是决定强行突破，你先想办法脱身，在大厅中接应我。耳机中传来徐磊的声音，最终采取了强行突破的方案。这也就意味着所有的犯罪证据很有可能被改成了全部。可是眼下情况只好如此，即便是有顾白在场，也不能保证毫无失误。毕竟一个轻微的失误很有可能会导致结果。我还是不打扰你们打开了，我就一扫而行，看谁是谁数排名。浩明将一包饭扔在了桌子上，便准备继续离开。此话一出，叶飞白知道应该是徐队长做出了什么决定，准备放弃监控监控室的方案。毕竟此时有3人在监控室，看样子意识到了还不能。小了，格局小了呀，不就3人而已嘛，直接开战就完事了。他不瞧，这时胖子和那光头佬突然开口：“哎，我们今天有3个人，李哥怎么才留1包烟啊？”是啊，这怎么符合咱们图大气的性格？2人对视一眼，脸上皆是满意贪婪的微笑，完全把眼前的吊儿郎当的青年当成实力，还想再分2包饭。嗨，这有啥？我待会就给你们拿。 见眼前这情节如此好戏，眼镜仔得寸进尺说道：“干脆帮我把名片的粉版吧，不然想天天来多累啊。”浩明微笑着点点头，起身便出门来。纵使心中非常无奈，但也只能抓背后才是正常。起初浩明还没开口，可就在浩明离开，叶飞白的爪子就得更紧，似乎在制止浩明离开。不多，白发青年咽了口唾，似乎已经明白了不白的用意，停下脚步转过头来看，当即意识到是相信来，还是服从命令。不白的爪子再一动，浩明似乎下定决心，心率开始疯狂飙升，向着三人走过去。浩明，不要冲动，先撤离现场。浩明毅然决然地向着三人走去。怎么了，李哥？你们让我带烟，那就先进来。白发青年一改往日的吊儿郎当，眼神中厉色闪过。嗨，都几百十个呢，今天的钱李哥帮我们结了。光头佬笑着和说，丝毫没有意识到问题的严重性。这么说也对，咱们都是兄弟。浩明哈哈一笑，来到光头佬面前，手直接搭在了他肩头，如同在与自己好兄弟说话一样。随着他的心率疯狂上升，叶飞白知道他冲动了，自己也做好了准备，对吗？咱们都是兄弟，要不这个星期欠你点钱就一笔勾销。光头佬此话一出，三人皆是一副。
Thank you very much, Mr. President Lai, for addressing the opening ceremony. And due to the scheduling considerations, Mr. President has to depart from the forum. Ladies and gentlemen, please once again join me for a round of applause to thank His Excellency, Mr. President Lai Ching-te, for joining us this morning. Thank you very much. Many thanks to Mr. President Lai Ching-te and all our distinguished guests for gracing the opening ceremony of the Ketagalan Forum 2025 Indo-Pacific Security Dialogue with all of your presence. Thank you so much for joining us today. And now, ladies and gentlemen, please thank all our guests here today. Thank you very much, Mr. President, for joining us and giving us an opening speech. Thank you very much. Please once again thank Mr. President and all our guests here today. Thank you. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you. And now, ladies and gentlemen, our first keynote speech will begin shortly in about 10 minutes, and we will now take a short break. In 10 minutes, we will resume our forum, so please remain seated during this time. If you need to step out, please be sure to return to your seat by 9:40 a.m. as we will begin promptly. Thank you very much.
自然专家也提醒，千万不要掉入陷阱。
这是你们自己发的，80。他这个什么？
仔细看看这张500元超商礼券，号称是年终感恩大回馈，刷挥一扫就让你有好康。家里最诈骗最近又重出江湖，有网友在社群媒体托文提醒，家里信箱如果收到这张礼券，请立即撕毁，千万不能扫码，否则小心各自己钱就没了。
有点逼真哦，我想多少看看为什么？平常我不会用这种东西。收到这种什么礼券啊什么，我都不会相信。
诈骗警示文一出，立刻引起网友关注。自然专家表示，扫码本身并不会让手机直接中毒，或是有个资损失的风险。但其他可怕的是，诈骗集团还会控制动作，不断引导你踏入陷阱。
当我们对方到达的上，在加入我们的立相关的一些个人资料，最后面会是我们再把它放进去。第二种方式会把你引导到这家让你寻址，那之后再来做一些芯片。
看准利用礼券行骗，诈团可能更盯上你的加密货币钱包。治安专家提醒，扫描到有问题的虚拟交易，如果自己按下同意，小心下一步不是钱包全空，就是账号被盗。针对假礼券，超商再强调已经不再贩售商品礼券了，呼吁民众千万别轻信。另外，全民普发现金1万元还没开始，现在也成为诈团行骗的话术。利用中央存保公司假网页诱骗做点击盗取个资，对此中央存保公司紧急澄清，不会透过网页、简讯或电话请民众提供个资，千万别傻傻照着做，任人宰割。记者林夕、杨梦桃台北报道。
重生后复仇是众矢的题，前是我觉醒吞魂能力，触碰尸体便可掠夺其能力为我所。大战之际我却被背叛成同死的废墟，在睁眼我竟重回学校，多里掠夺其能力为我所。大战之际我却被背叛成同死的废墟，在睁眼我竟重回学校，多里破魂升级。以上一世害色，刀臂螳螂冲进来时，邢安林还在抱怨自己低级的觉醒，下一秒他的脑袋就只剩下教室里炸成了锅，我不力叫吞魂，无品阶，只能摸尸体吞噬灵魂，掠夺其天赋为我所。在我触碰邢安林尸体的瞬间发动能力，吞噬玩家灵魂等级0，神魂点数加1，掠夺能力，侦查飞体，是否保留灵魂意识？我选择是。邢安林人不错，日后或许能练成不畏当辅助。另一边，在召回钻石之闪电剑的狂轰滥炸，刀臂螳螂爱灵，掠夺能力，刀臂清魂，怪物发动吞噬等级1怪物灵魂，神魂点数加2，掠夺能力，刀臂清魂，怪物灵魂没有意识选项。陆离，你在干什么？召回跟单英子安接生教我，我早有准备，淡定地说试试我的能力。飞铁品阶侦查，英子安满脸嘲讽，废物飞铁，有原体，别碰赵哥的战力。召回抬手制止，让他说完。我装出感情模样，我的侦查能找到怪物体内元晶的位置，在哪？召回眼神锐利，脑袋里。说完我识趣的后退，召回很满意，对英子安抬下，去挖出来。英子安觉醒的是白银粒子，很快挖出一颗灰黑色元晶，他眼中看蓝闪烁，还是地召回，赵哥一阶元晶，召回立刻吸收，摆出上位者姿态。凭什么我们拼命拿的元晶要白送召回？凭什么？人群里一家分头去找到的都交给召回，凭什么我们拼透召回？第二句教师跑了一声，世界彻底安静，把那2句教师说到角落，看似狗腿，实则狂喜，因为我的吞魂能力发动，又给我加了2点神魂点数，还掠夺到了白银能力，急速回去。赵辉看到我的举动，得意的笑，都学着点路。虽然他觉醒的只是个废物飞体，这更多的是历史，我毫不在意，我的吞魂逆天，但初期太弱，为辅发育，别让他失望的。很快，有人熬不住了，赵哥，我觉醒的是黄金品阶御魔术，让我跟着你。王旭燕抛着媚眼凑上去，赵辉果然收下了。接着，一个刺耳的声音响起，赵哥，我的侦查是青铜品阶，比陆离强，让我取代他吧。我抬眼一看，田宇浩，上一世他是我的伴，最后为利益背叛，这一世他竟然想找我放田宇浩，你死定了。赵辉眉毛一挑，行，你留下，陆离你滚出去杀破，把元晶大回给我，他现在膨胀的厉害，根本不担心我反抗。人群里响起嗤笑声，等着看我愤怒试探，但我只是淡淡应了声，心里乐开花，留在你身边，我还怎么发育？末世初期，分秒必争。赵辉只挑了几个漂亮女生留下，把其他人全轰出了教室。我目标明确，直奔学校后山，那里有个螳螂巢穴就在眼前，连个守卫都没有。我捡起还有一只母虫和一个洞，尖锐的名称螳螂母虫，领主生物等级螳螂母虫，流浪。它的可怕在于召唤小臂，我那些小臂现在还是意念一动，我的右臂瞬间化作一柄30长的锋利刀，这是刚掠夺的刀臂白银翼，同时发动巨力和急速，战力飙升。我故意用势颇猛的侧身塔，异常猥琐的游走，等待最佳时机。终于，母虫暴怒扑来。检测到玩家陆离为全球首位击杀领主级生物，是否全球公告？公告等的手杀好相比，全球公告，找死吧！我毫不犹豫选择搁置奖励，劈开虫头，挖出一颗回光闪闪的2阶元晶，加20经验，到没吸收，揣进脑袋。紧接着对尸体发动吞魂，神魂点数加10，掠夺能力，刀臂白银，掠夺能力，红群威慑黄金。检测到刀臂可进阶，触发任务，24小时内击杀100只刀臂螳螂，成功则刀臂进阶黄金，失败能力消失，24小时杀100只。开什么玩笑？这任务简直不讲理！看来这刀臂能力要用，不过没关系，大不了再吞一只螳螂的灵魂重新活。巢穴里还有一窝卵，蚊子腿也是的。我习惯性的朝黑漆漆的洞丢了个侦查，抬腿准备进去，突然一股致命的危机感炸开，我猛地向后急速，一道劲风擦过胸口，留下血。又一只体型更大1圈的螳螂母虫，呲着獠牙从洞里扑了出来，以及6，居然有2只，差点一窝3场。我狼狈的翻滚大开局。就在这时，身后传来惊呼：“陆离，快过来！”是徐骁的声音。他怎么会在这里？我立刻后退，看到徐骁带领虫草，他的能力光影一直不清楚。陆离，你怎么一个人跑这来？徐骁焦急地问，同时双掌下压，一命光影，他周身漫出，形成一圈圈光晕，圣洁无比，增幅型能力。我瞳孔一缩，那样对你还替他卖力。徐骁恨铁如钢，但还是把我的能力一拉，架出一张虎威，哪怕6级都能打错。你怎么知道他的漏？我从总监侦查能力，只要等级不超10级，都能找到漏。他们恍然大悟，原来飞铁能力用好一点，没理会他们，我走到母虫尸体旁，再次发动吞魂，神魂点数加10，掠夺能力，刀臂黄金，直接覆盖了之前的白银，掠夺能力，红群威慑黄金。检测到刀臂可2次进阶，完成后自动升铂金。检测到红群威慑可进阶，是否触发任务？虫群威慑对付虫子很好用，万一任务失败消失就亏了。我正纠结，徐骁突然问道：“陆离，你的侦查能力是不是能找到元晶？”我下意识回答：“是。”话音刚落，能力进阶任务触发，任务内容：24小时内越级击杀1名玩家，奖励挑战者宝箱3，红群威慑进阶铂金，以击杀1亿。这任务来的真是时候。徐骁见我脸色难看，以为我小气不想说元晶位置，语气有点冷。放心，来，保护升3级，打冰了，自己绝不能暴露。现在我有2个要命的进阶任务要完成，时间紧。徐骁看着我示意，他们就看到了倒在巢穴。徐骁把元晶贴身藏好，一咬牙，跟上他看他打什么。 没走几步，他们就看到了挡在巢穴入口处的第一只母猪尸体。徐骁惊愕万分，看着那只比捡了便宜，把汉推走。而此时，我回头丢下一句：“用你那聪明的脑袋想起，大完场。”然后身影彻底没入黑暗之中，穿过巢穴甬道，眼前豁然开朗。把汉架起火焰炉照亮四周，我操，他吓得差点尿裤。整个洞穴空间密密麻麻堆满了人头大小的虫卵，在火光下缓缓移动。这要是全孵出来，徐骁声音发颤：“陆离，这些虫卵太危险。”我们帮你清，没攻击力就是恶心。一番忙活，我收获了近20点神力，玩家陆离神魂点数达到50，解锁魂兵。我心头一震，这意味着我的神魂点数可以重塑死去的怪物灵魂，成为不死不灭、永远存在实力。50点神魂刚好够重塑一只等级2的高地螳螂。更惊喜的是，系统竟把未孵化的虫卵也算在高地螳螂。能力进阶任务完成，击杀100只高地螳螂，奖励挑战者宝箱。刀臂能力进阶国境，我选择搁置奖励，刚松口气，全球公榜。恭喜赵辉成为全球首位等级1的玩家，奖励黑铁升级宝箱。京城赵家府邸内，赵经理把这小子给我全虚全伪的带来。教室里，赵辉暴跳如雷，一天居然只能吸10颗元晶，等级被锁死，我还怎么称霸？王旭燕茶没笑，赵哥1个元晶，赏你了，谢谢赵哥。赵辉眼神一冷，还以因此安冷汗瞬间下，一道闪电剑直接把他轰飞出去。王旭燕只好答，别让我狗死。赵辉语气冰冷，王旭燕赶紧治疗，因此安忍着剧痛爬回。赵哥不错，我是您的本乡2阶元晶。王旭燕眼中贪婪异常，赵哥真厉害。赵辉却兴趣缺缺，今天他吸收不了，心思却活络起来，不如用它去收服徐骁的你。他正歪歪着美好的后宫声。赵哥，陆离回来了，看到我馋也是吧？因此安脸上产为顺于元晶。赵辉一愣，下意识看向自己的安摊开手，掌心赫然也是一颗血红元晶。2阶元晶不争论，利爪闪电般刺因子安疯狂捅动，那颗染血的2阶元晶，他只会利用你的操金口。你杀了赵哥，谁保护本来赵辉尸体？可是的2阶元晶了一个等级5的螳螂母。陆离捡了那颗2阶元晶，被等级6的母虫追杀时被我们救，成朵朵捂嘴惊呼。王超这一插嘴，怕啥那6级的怪被我们干掉？元晶就怎么办？马汉一把捂住了，地怎么办？徐骁正想大家同群一场，没什么好玩。那头6级的螳螂母虫确实是我们合力击杀，大家团结起来，互帮互助才能活下去。独裁没有什么好下场。因子安不服，说得好听，你怎么保证你不变成第2个赵？我的能力是增幅队友，注定需要合作。徐骁坦然，你不信我可以离开，但别再杀人。因子安眼神闪烁，看了看正气凛然的徐骁，又看了看我，最终摇头，算了，你们玩你们的和谐大家庭，老子一个人。等等，王超一步拦住，皮肤瞬间硬了，嘿嘿一笑，走可以，把2阶元晶留下。因子安脸色一沉，我要是不，那我们就只好上点手段，把汉慢悠悠接回，双掌火焰飞滚。别了，我说过你太圣了，我可以，我笑一点。不可理喻，他一把将元晶塞入手里，气呼呼转身。与此同时，王旭燕正偷偷掰赵辉紧握的拳头。你干什么？徐骁语气冰冷。王旭燕一哆嗦，萧姐，赵辉这还有颗2阶元晶，此人用不上，不如你再搜刮战利品。徐骁眯起眼，不，元晶是大家的。王旭燕慌忙把元晶对战。我加入，不急了。徐骁把刚才那颗2阶元晶给我，2清，3阶元晶值100经验，2阶只值20经验。我其实亏了，但王超不提，我连这20经验都拿不到。徐骁很干脆，把王旭燕手里的2阶元晶抛给我。众人一愣，田玉浩忍不住质疑：萧姐，干嘛给陆离？
这是一款中世纪模拟策略游戏，你将从一个小村庄开始，作为领主召集村民建造城堡。
刚出生就发现故事即将调换自己的手，正在打情骂俏的大妈突然听见了，幸福满满，她越念越开心。一出事，管家的脸色。那天，男人一大早就去取了钱，昨晚他们终于睡好，没做噩梦，钱收好放在家。男人特意给楚清如打电话，谢礼。楚清如满头噩耗，直到他说是个小道士帮了他，满满的面孔才在脑海里浮现。难道真的是满满帮忙吗？楚清如刚挂断电话，脑袋还在转，方雷的电话又准时打进，道长应该这几天就能帮忙。这话一冒出来，他心头蹦出3个惊叹号，真的是满满，非客道观那个道长口口声声说的神秘帮助。
娘娘，是个小公主。
生不得入京，当今圣上。
而且这陆续下雪，
定会有。可惜了一段时间，极大可能。
什么玩意？
我的微小公主是奴婢，此等当时奴婢就在一边这么疼爱这个小这还是人的样子吧？
我不要。陪着来东京以后，魔幻型没有正确性，或者是毒药，想自落3分。
我不听了。
你想象的念办，成为能成的。我这日子好和你。月月兄，
李云这关注母妃我，还在关心你看看弟儿，母妃有办法吧？怎么样？
为娘娘，人知道心为我。
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, our next session will begin in about 5 minutes. I'd like to invite you to please take your seats and silence your mobile devices. Our next session will begin in about 5 minutes. Thank you.
哦，对了，天
此悲剧被两会对人
真是昏君，小
当然的，为什么和民工不放弃？不是可是在信和董所说的陆续下雨天气和
皇上，岂是你的污蔑啊？
先说你随风过去，那也严重。你可有什么随处进行的说来听。
这小波车你
请自然内。
不是
奉天承运，气象明灯，却因北疆无军力故地有之普通如应与身边乱民心者，当论其亲长是国。对，
好热闹啊！
皇上袖表公主都是那张大红线头，
朕让你指点略说。
农户3个月之后就回来了哟，这才是暖冬啊！掌事公主变成了洗衣服、洗工厂的宫女。
下一秒，自己的小腿不知是有几记住，瞬间失去了平衡，整个人直接重重地砸在地上。咚！一声闷哼传来，光头佬张着大嘴，五脏六腑传来的疼痛感让他根本发不出声。背后的男人更是死死地压在他身上。这突如其来的
Ladies and gentlemen, our next session is about to begin shortly. I'd like to invite all of you to please take a seat immediately. Thank you very much for your cooperation. Our next session is about to begin shortly. Thank you.
完了，雷万军眉头皱起，眼前的情况浩明100%报。房间内，大胖子和眼镜男也反应过来，察觉不对，正准备大喊。届时，浩明背后突然鸣起，一道黑影瞬间从青年西服中窜了出来，嗖，如同一道黑色闪电向着两人靠近。仅仅只是一个眨眼的瞬间，黑影如同瞬间来到眼镜男脚下。下一秒，黑影高高跃起，伴随着一声沉闷的打击声。
Ladies and gentlemen, our opening keynote speech is about to begin. I'd like to invite all of you to please take your seats and silence your mobile devices. Thank you very much.
发生了什么？只感觉脖颈处被什么东西猛然一撞，随后便再也不知道发生了什么。咚咚，一胖一瘦应声倒下。而此时，一只翼龙黑猫十分淡定地坐在胖子的大肚子上，面目凶光地舔了舔自己的爪子。宝宝既能浸润却不好，没意思。这两人战斗力太猛了。喵喵，叶飞白很是不屑地瞥了一眼旁边的人，似乎还没有尽兴。屋内空气仿佛凝固了一般，死一般的气息。浩明瞳孔发颤，喉结一动，不由自主地咽了口肉，难以置信地望向这只大黑猫，连连摇头，心中感叹：太夸张了，太夸张了！现场见识到黑猫的速度，这才真切地感觉到什么叫震撼。短短几秒，电光火石之间，把两名成年人应声而倒。甚至连反抗的动作都做不出来，他们从头到尾，他们都不知道自己到底是个什么东西的东西，正看着实时画面特警们同样愣在原地。于浩明同感震惊表情，雷万军手中正是。
Ladies and gentlemen, once again, I'd like to invite all of you to please take your seats as our next session is about to begin. Thank you.
到底是如何与浩明形成了完美的配合？自己刚刚仅仅只是眨了个眼睛功夫，背包就已经窜到那眼镜男的肩头之上，特警队员们面面相觑。 此刻竟然找不到形容词来形容刚才所发生的一切。他们虽然都看过不白的执法视频，但还是为刚才那一幕感到震撼。这就是那只能与老虎斗的猫吗？哇！一只德牧乖巧地坐在地上，但那双傻乎乎的大眼睛却望向警员们看着的屏幕，似乎注意到了不白这强悍的视频，当即激动地汪了一声。他好像知道屏幕中那黑影是不白，但此刻却没人注意到。这只德牧同样也有不凡的智商。徐队长默默地掏出一支香烟，默默点燃，吐出一股烟气，看着屏幕中那只外表人畜无害的大黑猫。这一次任务让他真切地感受到他的实力有多可怕。看来刚才是自己格局小了呀。就不白这夸张的实力，即便是靠3人也不是问题。即便是如此震惊，还是不忘提醒他。浩明将他们完全控制。听着耳机内传来领导的声音，浩明这才回过神来，收到，拿出几根战术扎带，手法非常熟练地将3人手脚固定，风腿带直接缠在他们腿上，必须要确保不发出声。
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to invite all of you once again to please take your seat as our next session is about to begin. Thank you very much for your cooperation. Thank you.
浩明，单位信号屏蔽器会让我们交流中断。你与不白见机行事在楼上接应。收到，特警队开始行动。1分钟不到，耳机的信号被直接中断，整栋大楼的网络也被切断。1楼大厅中，一名身着休闲装、身材壮硕的男人正向前台走去。你好，先生。那名大胸姐姐与男人打着招呼，但男人却根本没有回复她，直接一个翻身，越过前台。啊！随着一声尖叫声传来，妹子直接被变装特警控制，根本没有任何机会按下柜台下方那颗警报按钮。你在干嘛？大厅中一名魁梧的安保人员。
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the forum, and please join me in giving a warm round of applause to welcome our morning keynote speaker, the Right Honorable Boris Johnson, and our host, Ambassador Bonsoir Wu Zhizhong, Deputy of the MOFA Taiwan, to the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, please give them a big round of applause. Welcome. Please welcome the Right Honorable Boris Johnson to the stage, and please take a seat, and also welcome our host, Ambassador Bonsoir Wu Zhizhong. Welcome.
没有丝毫的拖泥带水，控制着一名又一名的工作人员。1楼呢有着不少房间角落，警员们快速搜寻，在搜寻过的房间中都被留下了自己的头发，可谓是相当专业。一看便知道是受过专业 CPD 训练的特警队，仅仅用了3分钟时间，便将1楼所有的人控制到了大厅之中，交于当地警方和公安。此时酒店出来也已经没剩下，一场大行动正在悄无声息地进行着。
Welcome you all this year's Ketagalan Forum Indo-Pacific Security Dialogue. Today, we are especially proud to host a figure whose presence speaks volumes about the importance of shared democratic value and the deepening bonds between the free societies. It is my distinct pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, the Right Honorable Boris Johnson, former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. This occasion marks Monsieur Johnson's first visit to Taiwan. We are delighted to welcome him in the spirit of friendship and sincere respect. Mr. Johnson served as a UK Prime Minister from 2019 to 2020, a time of extraordinary global tribulation and transformation. His premiership was characterized by an unwavering conviction in the power of democracy to stand united in the face of threat to the political, economic, or military. Under Mr. Johnson's leadership, the United Kingdom took bold steps to reposition itself globally. Most notably through the 2021 Integrated Review, which heralded Britain's strategic tilt toward the Indo-Pacific. This reorientation acknowledged the region's growing importance to worldwide peace and prosperity, and it paved the way for deeper cooperation in like-minded democracy in Taiwan. In particular, when the United Kingdom held the G7 presidency during Mr. Johnson's term in 2021, the G7 leaders committee for the first time explicitly underscored the importance of peace
不过是我
and
同样道理，
stability
一名人
across
高
the
喊来
Taiwan Strait.
正向领域的面向性。
This marks a
不仅如此，
corrective
一直身着黑色警
sharpening
服的大黑
of
猫
the
老
G7
板
focus
如
on
同盯着猎人一样
Indo-Pacific
望向前。
affair.
那一双眼睛
Represented a
他
meaningful
是
expression
这不是对
of
这种火焰
support
之猫
for Taiwan's
不可
security
的。
and
几人如同见了
international presence.
既然这只猫出现在这里，
Taiwan deeply
那就证明
appreciated
朝真的来。
Mr.
并且
Johnson's
来很秀
commitment
怎么连犯罪分子都
upholding
已经知道
democratic value
知道自己的人
his
是不
role
是太多了？
in
他知道的是
fostering a
自己
more
学到有希
inclusive
望。
and
就连一
rule-based
些犯罪分子说不定不
international
是他。
order.
几人望向
Mr.
后
Johnson
不
has
看笑
never shied
此
away
时
from
终于是一
speaking
半。
truth
妈，
out.
还
He
没有
has
人
been
解释
one of
此
the
时电梯大门
clearest
已
and
经
the most consistent
哗啦
voice in
全副武
Europe
装的特警部队
in
直接
support
冲进
of
警
Taiwan's
报复动
democracy
作迅速的
and
掏手
in
枪，
calling
而此
attention
刻
to
300
Russian
英里
tension
被前来的
close
4
to
名
the
特警团
Taiwan
到
Strait.
可谓是做出一点小
His
动作，
stance
发不出
has
任何声音。
underscored
这
the
名微微紧张的
importance
看，
of
以一
maintaining
种怨恨
peace,
的眼神望向前
stability,
方，
and the
浩
freedom
明
of
面面的气，
navigation
只是淡淡
in
的
this
说，
vital
别发出声音，
region,
抱头蹲下，
and has
明日的前头地，
contributed
此时毫不留情地将自
significantly
己盘在地上。
international awareness
蹲下，
and
浩明眼
resolve.
神中一道厉色爆发，
At the
凶
same
狠的表
time,
情让
Mr.
300倍
Johnson
重生。
has played
这还是
a
那只傻不拉几的小
leader
混
role
混。
on the
他
global
把持当路，
stage in
身后的特
responding
警
to
立马跟上
Russia
直接
war
动
of
其中一
aggression
名男人
in
刚张口准
Ukraine.
备大喊，那人
During
声
his
都不发出，
premiership,
便感觉背后
the
有
United
重力
Kingdom moved
让他后背从
swiftly
根本发不
to
出声。
implement
啊，
strong sanctions
只能听到那一
against
声
Russia,
痛哼，还有
provide
沉闷的发
robust
气声。
military
找
and
死吗？
humanitarian
把嘴
aid
都闭
to
好了。
Kiev.
特警们不会给嫌疑
The
人
ready
任何发出声
international
的机会。
partner
谁敢张
defends
嘴迎接
the
他们的，
principle
将是
of
重处强迫。
sovereignty
由雷万军
and
带队的部队，
international
共
law.
5人正悄无声息
Leadership
地
of
向前
this
进。
issue
一旁
demonstrated
还有一只做好战斗
profound
状态的特警，
commitment
他压低身姿
to
对对
collective
面前
security
进，
and
只不过那呆萌的眼神
diplomatic
几乎没有什么威慑。
resilience.
而一只大黑猫此
But
时也
Mr.
是
Johnson is
第
more
二
than
部队
a
立即
leader
向
of
机房，
consequence.
机房
He is also
能够听到犯罪分子
powerful
那
in the
噼里啪啦的
persuasive
还有
communication.
时不时传来的发语音。
His ability
小妹妹，
being
你觉得哥哥还能骗你？
strategic vision
这么大的酒
with
店
the
骗你干
human
嘛？
values
也是看你长得漂亮。
speak
当我们前台绝对
candidly
没问题。
in defense
反
of
正你一个人出来
liberty
捅，还
makes
不如找
his
自己做。
voice a
雷万军手上
particularly
比出了各种手势，
vital
特警队员
one
们反应迅速，
today's
其中一人站在门口仰望之下，四人分别站在头两边。门口的警员
as
敲响
Taiwan
门，动不
continues
动
to
谁啊？
work
我
with the
特
global
警计划一
partner
出，
to
里面点
safeguard
名
its
通，看来犯罪分子
Indo-Pacific
很是狡
and
猾，说不
uphold
定已经
the
听出了我的
rules-based
目的。特
international
警毫不犹豫，
We
直接
are
抬起战
honored
术区，
to count
猛然一脚
Mr.
将犯罪
Johnson,
的房门踹
a
开。
friend and
啊！
supporter
犯罪的房
of
门被踹
Taiwan.
开，立马听到一声惨
Ladies
叫，
and
一名罪犯的
gentlemen,
脑袋
mesdames
直
et
接被打
messieurs,
入重
各位女士、
队员
先生
动作迅速，
，please
举着自
join
动步
me
枪压低身
in
体，做出
standing
移动射击，
very, very warm
直接朝着
welcome
里面冲
our
了进去。
distinguished
汪汪
keynote
汪！
speaker,
小气凶狠
the
的
Right
喊话，
Honorable
警犬
Boris
也是一个威慑。
Thank you, Deputy Minister Wu, and ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Right Honorable Boris Johnson for his speech. Welcome.
Well, Minister Wu, thank you very much for that wonderful introduction, the longest and most enthusiastic introduction I've had for a very long time. Li ho, everybody. Very, very good to see you, and Mr. Chairman of the Prospect Foundation, Mr. President de l'Assemblée Nationale, ministers, colleagues, friends, Ukrainian friends who are here. Thank you for this invitation. It's wonderful to be here in Taiwan at last, because until yesterday, I had only seen this country on my lockdown Peloton machine, which had a screen on the handlebars, giving me the illusion that I was cycling on the coastal path of Taiwan. So the day after day, I was up on the top floor of number 10 Downing Street, puffing away on my exercise bike and watching the rain-slicked tarmac of Taiwan spool away in front of me. And I believed I was on this magic island. And I noticed how beautiful it is. And also noticed by how sheer, how vertical the cliffs are, and how difficult to attack. A point I think that deserves to be more widely noted. But I couldn't see the people, and I couldn't see the culture, and there were no clues as to Taiwanese society, except all seemed very clean and very well organized. And it was irritating because I wanted to find out about the incredible Taiwanese tribe, which I believe will be in the key technology of the 21st century. I've come here really as a pilgrim, Mara, from a distance. And as a total believer in I, an addict.
低头看着比自己矮一大黑猫拼命地摇晃着尾巴。
Look, I don't
五个大
mind
舌头，
if
如
ChatGPT
新
occasionally
花
makes
花
things
表
up.
表扬老太太，叶飞白，
Because it's so
也
brutal.
不知什么时候，
It's
这
so
个母
good
亲
for
将
my
自己
ego.
当成老大，竟然还喜
Imagine
欢自己
having a little friend
得得
who
得，
tells you
阿
every
姨你
day,
醒了吧？喵喵喵！
brilliant, and
叶飞白伸出脑袋，拍了拍
you're
自己
so
的胸口，
clever.
让这只有些蠢
ChatGPT
的人
will
物
be
开心的
lovely
提着，
language.
一脸
And
的
it's,
气。
it's all free.
请问好吗？
It's
一两万
absolutely
美在交
fantastic.
给题，
Far
对人
from
们压抑
fearing
和用
the
罪犯
future.
向大地去。
I look forward to the day
共有13人
when
犯罪，
artificial intelligence goes through the protected bourgeois professions like a whirlwind of fire, torching the ridiculous, time-consuming, and don't you agree? Time-consuming, expensive nonsense, conveyancing,
收到
plan
个人针对需求，
applications,
按
waiting,
条已成功布置，
this legal
逮
stuff.
捕13人，报告里面这个情况，犯罪分子身份全部归查完毕，楼
People
上
like me
共
to
带着
ransom for
排除正常
generations.
住客
I
15
mean,
人，
don't worry, all the people who
但
do
是
these jobs,
听这样的那边
accountants,
似乎遇到什么困难
lawyers, and so forth, they're
请
going to
假
get other jobs.
我们搜遍了所有房间，
It's going to be
甚至
fine
所有角落
because
都没有见到受害
great
者。
technological
大多数
change
嫌疑人都
always
不知道
ends
入伙
up
埃及，
creating more
他们的组织高层
well-paid
也
jobs
是全盘否
than
认
it
保
destroys.
安
And we will
此话一
solve
出
the problem
大厅中一名短发女
of
飞小姐，
social care
心中一缩
workers, the shortage
主
of
持中
social
知
care
道受害者
workers
位置的人
in
少
our
之又
country.
少，
Not
保密
with
工作更是非常难，
ignorance, but with
只要他们找不到受害者，就有
ChatGPT.
浩明，
ChatGPT
你确定受害者
is
就在
reminding
这
the
边？
elderly to take
经过
their
我观察，
bills
每次受害者前来接客时都
tirelessly
非常，
polite
甚至不到1分钟
and
就能打案，
deferential
并且
manner.
跟酒打听的小
AI
伙
is going to help
能够确认受害者就在酒店里，
in millions of
只是
ways
不知
we
具体位
don't
置。
guess at
徐雷
right
点
now. It's the biggest
再次回复，
advance in
搜查仔细
cognitive
了，
power
搜查非常
in
仔细
my，lifetime.
我们
It
请
has
非
the
常多，
potential
已经在酒店中
to be
摸排
bigger than the internet,
徐磊连
bigger
连
than Gutenberg,
让
bigger
所有
than
人在案
print
情中仔细
itself.
搜寻，甚至还查了酒店
And
监控，
all of it
想要查明受害者的位置。
is made
奈何
possible
每次有客人来
by
时，
Taiwan.
酒店内的监控便会自行关闭，监控中甚至从来没有
And
拍到
it's
受害
true.
者。
As I'm sure you all know, about 95%,
徐队长
perhaps
最终
even
大胜过
100% now,
先带他
of the sophisticated microprocessors
今天必须要
that
将
are
受害者
necessary
学
for
会
AR
浩明
are
梦想
made
群中
here
探探，
through the
他知道人
genius
家
of
绝对不知道
Taiwanese
受害者，
manufacturers, atomic
如果想
level
到
precision
他口中
in
得到信息和
lithography
消息，
and etching.
就在特警
I
部门
remember
开始
when
所
I
有
first
行
became Prime Minister of the
叶飞
UK
白
in
是亲自
2019.
在案场中搜
I
寻，
said, look,
小七见状，屁颠颠的跟
you've
了
got to catch up.
一毛一毫消失在大厅之中，忙碌的警员们调查。
I said, how much? I said to my officials,
所
how
有
much
犯
will
罪
it
嫌疑人
cost
皆是报酬标准，
for us to
每人
build
手
a
上都写
fab
清楚，
fabrication
从
plant
他们的表
here
情
in
中
the
看
UK?
得出他们
They
并不
said £9 billion to
一
begin.
旁不仅有身着警服的警察，
Seemed quite a lot.
也有身着特
I
种的
said,
特警
okay,
此
right.
时大家很
And
伤，
then they said,
最
but
终由浩
even
明
if
挑
we
选
could do it
对他们进行单独
on a
的，
reasonable
但
timescale,
都没有得
we
到
could
大家
not
喜欢。
guarantee that
他
our
们的
chips
口
would
径
be
非常一致
as good as
一头要给
Taiwanese.
酒店里面
Because year after year, the Taiwanese are getting
并且
better
也
and
会让
better.
我拐卖之时，
And
即
year
便是
after
面对
year,
计
these
划的
Taiwanese
他
chips
们依旧是
put
逐月输出受
new
害者的
distance
这也会
between
算是政府。
themselves
希
and
望
their
你不要妄想
competitors.
你拿到的那些名单
I
太
gave
过
up
贴近
the，idea
不过只是人事部在招人。
of the UK
他们来面试以
trying to
后
compete
又
with
一
it.
面上来，一名身着西
And
装
I've come here
长
because
相英俊，
I know
气质翩翩，
that
颇
there
有
is
舞台的风范。
a
他
fundamental
面对
reason
警察不落
why
十
this
分高傲的
miracle
敲着二
is taking
我
place
承认我
in
酒店
Taiwan
中
and
有卖
nowhere
黄金的行
else
为，
in the
但我
world.
也只是
Or
看
at
得
any
出
rate,
他
a unique
小姐
combination
都不是我们酒店的
of
员工，
factors.
交地
There's
漏
a
都是他
strategic
自己
vision of the
男人
Taiwanese
春风
government. We just heard
得意洋洋地望向什么
the,
自己。 我
the,
对
the
我很清楚，
companies
只
themselves
是提供了非
who
常
were driven by
那些不关我的事。
constant
此时的情况
desire
的确
to
如此，
improve.
现在的证据只能证明这家
But then there's the whole commercial
并没有拐
environment
卖人的证据。
of
你知不知
Taiwan.
道你自己干
The
了？
spirit that you
那些
notice
合
as
作
soon
人
as you
员
get here, which you can't
在一
really,
场音
which
乐
you
会
can't
之后，
detect on
终于是
your number 10
通过
peloton.
纪律直接抓了男人，
And it seems to
举起
me
拳头便准
that there is a zing and energy and an optimism here, because this is a free country where everyone has the equal protection of the law. You don't have to worry that someone is going to steal your intellectual property because you have security of IP, and where you don't have to bribe some party apparatchik to get a contract, because on the whole, corruption here is very low. And that freedom, under the law, gives people tremendous confidence to invest and to take risks, commercial risks, that they might not otherwise take, and therefore to innovate. Taiwan is currently the world's most important technology. And so, of course, it follows that it's vital, not just for Taiwan, but for the rest of my country, for the whole world.
不是狗，也不是
That
大
we
狗，
protect
喵
that
喵喵，
freedom.
喵喵喵
Yeah.，
叶飞白喵喵喵的叫，而身后的
Well,
狗
I think I
似
can
乎
safely
受
say
到
after
高级，
24 hours
非常委屈的呜呜，
that
呜咽了几声
we，have a miracle
看着身后这长相呆
here
萌，
in this country.
可怜巴巴望向
A
自己的大腿。
Chinese country
叶飞白一
of
阵
24
得得
million
得，你不骂，
where
不得不说这德国形势的确，
feels
竟然感
free,
觉到自己生气了。
feels
就这样，
different,
叶飞白继续
feels
在
a strong
在
sense
一
of
间又一间的
Taiwanese
情绪房间中找
identity.
姿势，
And as far as I
一点
understand,
什么也没有发现，
the
让叶飞
majority
白都
of
不得不
people
怀疑是不是
do
情报。
not
不然偌大一个酒店，怎么可能会连20名受
want
害
to
者？
declare that they are
此事已是
a
开启，
sovereign
中
state.
心，奈何还是没有发觉
Have I
任
got
何
that
蛛丝
right?
马迹。
Let's
来
say
走，
the
你闻闻这 JK 群，
general large
喵喵喵，
because
叶飞
they're
白
aware
将一
of
条
the
JK 群
sensitivities
标了出来，
on the mail.
放到了7年前，
All they
德牧
want,
一脸茫然的望向自己，
as we've heard
也对，
from the
自
president,
己如果发出
all
声
they
明，
want
身为警犬的小七自然
the
不太，
status
还不如
quo
带去警员们身边，帮助警员们找一找，
to
你们想
protect
啥搞？干嘛就干啥。
democratic
叶飞白
self-government
挺嗅无语，但就在下面，
and the
德
freedom
牧
that
战
is at
士
least partly
用自己的
responsible,
超级
I
敏锐
believe,
嗅觉
for
在
your
JK 区上
success.
来回探索。
And
哟
the sad
叶
thing
飞白
about
也
what
一
is
样，
happening now
没想到这家伙竟然理会了自己，
is that it is not
见
the
状
people of
便立
Taiwan
刻领着这只大狗来
who are demanding
期间，但凡发现同样的
constitutional change.
小七便会坐在原地嚎叫一声。好家伙，警犬就是好用啊！
Beijing
让叶飞白都不由得
that is insisting
奈
without
何
the
还是没有在
slightest
案件中
attempt
发现任何的痕迹。
that the current
若是知道
arrangements are
是
somehow
那在酒
unsatisfactory.
店中绝对没有发现的。
And every
这
day,
地方竟然瞒过了警察呢，最终只能使小七无奈离开。只见
the
飞猫
People's
跳下电
Republic of
梯，
China
下行而
is
进，
trying to
在
bully
电梯上
Taiwan into
一
submission.
猫一狗一同走进电梯之中。
And the PRC
小七
is
对
sending
飞白非
boats
常
into
好，
Taiwanese
飞
waters
猫
and
的
planes
一
into
动看不
Taiwanese
看人，
airspace
飞猫一跳，
as if to
电
remind
梯
the
一
world
电梯下
that we
行，
needed reminding
进入电梯后，
of the
小
might
七也是
of
坐
the
在电梯
Chinese
上
armed
风
forces
叶飞白并不
and
在，
thereby
必须受害
signaling
人
their
非常
intention
正常。
by 2027 we're not
吓我一跳
very far away at
喵
all
喵！但就在电
to
梯下行
impose
的暗头，
Chinese communist rule on this
身后的德
island
牧突然朝着电梯一走，疯
to
狂地叫
eradicate
汪
democracy
汪汪
to
汪汪汪！
impose
叶飞白是
education
一顿，
and
顺
basically
势
to run the place
显
in
然他是
Beijing
闻到了浓烈且熟悉的气息，
and they are signaling they've
心中
said
顿时有一个大开子。难
that
不
if
成
necessary they are
这
willing
时
to use
叶飞白
force
开始观察每一层楼电梯下降的速度，
It's around the world
经
people
过对
the
比，
relative
按图第八
size of the
到
two
7楼之间
entities
所花费的时间似乎略微长了一些。
Taiwan versus
马尔
the
代夫真的是这样，
Republic of China
难不成有2层暗头？
versus
喵喵喵！
1.3
再次让电梯上行，
and
就在电梯再次
they
来到
wonder
暗
how
头起舞之地时，
Taiwan could possibly survive
一道非常微弱的尖叫声
such
传入耳
a
边。
struggle
随着电
I
梯
mean
向
around
上
the，world they
那声非常微
I
弱的
don't think
声
they worry
音
about it
消
here
失
do
不
they
见，叶飞白双目一凝，心中
do
倍
you
感
think
震惊。
Taiwan
这声尖
Let me
叫
ask you
虽
seriously
然
do
让
you
我
think
们
Taiwan
都察觉不到，
can survive
但它的听
do
力
you think
不
this
是带，
this blessed
往往
this
地上
happy
不字
accident
都能有所察
of
觉。
history
出事了，
can keep its
喵！
free
此时已经不确认
democratic
就列出有
status
2层暗头，也就是
Do
说
you？，
刚才
Yes
他们所在行动的暗头
Good
其实是地
Well
下
I'm here to
关着受害者的
assure
还
you
是八层。
But I
至于自
also
己
believe
该如何前往这
that
第八层
Taiwan can and Taiwan
只能是这
will
样。
because it's
似乎是有
clear
什么
to me
飞猫是跳起
that
来按下一
freedom
钮，
is what the people
电
of
梯下行，
Taiwan want.
开
In
门
the
瞬
phrase
间
of John Stuart
叶
Mill,
飞白直
you
接
are
冲了
lovers of your own
一只大德
liberty.
布紧随其后。1楼
And
大
I
厅
don't
中，
believe that
飞猫
spirit
直接将目光
will
锁定了
ever
满面
be
愁的号
crushed.
他心情
And
似
I
乎是
say
平静的，
that for to our
没有
friends
人
in
动
Beijing, and they should be
直接朝着号门冲了过去，远远的
That is
便
a
能看到
huge
他手中
mistake
拄着卡片的情况。
to use
背包是靠
intimidating
跟的跳上
and
去，
aggressive
抱着
measures.
他的大腿，直接将猫爪伸入了裤兜，随后叼着一张磁卡
Public
向
to contemplate
号
violence
名，一边猛地号名望向着着急离开的大飞猫，
because
不知
the
道
minute
发生了
you
什么。
use
号
force
名，
to make
你来审问
an
一下
unilateral
这位
change to the
来了，
status quo,
不妨或提前
you，risk a
背
chain
包
of
叼着磁
events
卡高高跳
that
起
you，cannot
磁卡
control.
触碰到电梯按钮，
Because that
1次、
is, I'm afraid,
2
what
次、
war
3次，
always means.
就在第3次后，按
We
节亮
know,
起，
of course, that there are
电梯
currently
离开了，
ambiguities in
他自然是知
the
道
official
斯卡需要刷三，
US
毕竟
position,
制定计划时候
British
各有
position
技术。
about
一
what
方
we
面
will
进入
do
电梯，
in
并
the
没有
event
任
of
何
an attack on
电梯自
Taiwan.
动向上运行。在此
That is
情
for a
况之
very
下
good，reason,
也正是真
but
正的
no
英雄。
one wants to get
列飞
through
来
into
来
a
到熟悉的感觉，
discussion
站在最中
about a
心
set of
望向
circumstances
脚下的地
that we all
地板
passionately
之下便是第8
to
层。
avoid.
如果没有猜错的话，楼下这套案子之
Also,
中就是关于受害者。
you see it
两个技能的权利
previous
拆迁
versions
原
of
则
this
第
conference
8层
that there
暗
are
层
already
或梯门
powerful,
正有着2名面容慌张的人，
distinguished
他们2人手中皆是拿着银色的兵枪，
who
神
are
色
ready to
慌张
speak
地
up
望向电梯楼层，
defense.
生怕电梯停在他们所处楼层。
And you know
而就
that
在
there
当
are
时
many in Washington who are
，20少女
absolutely
瑟瑟发抖
determined
蜷缩在墙角，
to prevent
互相依偎，
what
甚至有
America
几个少女
fears
已经害怕地
to
颤抖
be
起
a major
来。
change in
怕
the balance
他们不敢怎么样，
power
过来，姐姐们都在，这是一声怒吼，他妈的给我闭嘴！谁再说一句话，把我杀了！少女们脸上充满着火光，因为他们在这亲眼见到他们处理尸体，也亲自体会过歹徒对待大家的残忍。20名少女中，其中便11名未成年，他们脸上有着窒息，眼神中更是透出无比的绝望。爸，绝对出事了！楼上已经1个多小时没有回复消息。刘哥真要和警察拼了，那我们岂不是死定了？喊着刘哥的人身才解除，奈何此时也都被下轻了。刘哥一脚踢到他的腿上，想让他清醒。废话，你以为我是抓了活的人吗？你我手里面都有人，想要跑就得拼命。不过现在警察应该是没有发现他们的迹象，应该也是。他们就算是做梦，也想不到案头下面还有案子。可是我刚才好像听到了叫声，万一真的被发现怎么办？那就残忍人质，不能拼，不然还能怎么办？少女们瑟瑟发抖，听到有可能会被当成人质，心中非常慌。但即便是这样，大家也不敢期望能够被警察发现。这种暗无天日的日子，这种备受虐待的日子，谁也不想就这样活着。一旁观赏维斯看着自己的小爪子，心中非常自信。叶飞白知道自己爪子到底有多大，也知道自己这小爪子需到底有多大。狂暴。技能发动之势，叶飞白全方面的体质飞速提升，那股用之不竭的力量让他此时的激动，血液飞速流动，骨骼、感官、肉体都在达到极致。一旁的小七则是感受到了飞毛的力量，不由得发出一声惊呼，其他人害怕，这只是狂暴的极限，而不是叶飞白的极限。喵王爪，霎时间，空气仿佛都要凝固。一旁的小七浑身颤抖，一股压迫感向自己袭来。小七满惊恐的眼神看着眼前的黑猫，一道道白色的气息汇聚在那小脑子之上，灵光闪过，唰，锋利的爪子突然伸出，其上闪烁着寒芒。小七双手颤抖，甚至连看黑猫的勇气都不再有，逼着小脑袋一点火热。这一刻，黑猫的气势达到巅峰。由于喵王爪的时间只能持续8秒，此刻更是一秒，抬起爪子望向眼前的目标。实力毫无保留，直接朝着眼前的目标挥舞前程。就在要接触到地上的时，叶飞白猫爪变宽，银色的爪子伸长，一道又一道的残影。黑猫轻易地挥动爪子，只听到如同石头碎裂般的声音传来。小七抬起脑袋，但却看到了令他吓到的，眼前是飞龙，最反面的地面甚至传来夸张的震动，根本看不清飞猫在干什么，只能听到那夸张的动静。呜！这一刻，小七害怕极了，他哪见识过这种程度？叶飞白往回地干着拆迁的活，两方进行的加持力道更是夸张，地砖早已面目全非，露出了最下层的水泥。但即便是这样，又如何？这家伙简直是天马行空挖掘机，即便是水泥地也能将其挖穿。楼下如此大的动静，将楼下房间中的人们吓了一跳，所有人都能感觉到天花板传来的震动。如何？这是什么东西？难不成是地震
？He will be remembered as the man who, by his arrogance and impatience, created in the hearts of Ukrainians an absolutely inextinguishable national feeling and desire for independence. Putin is not the man who restored Russian pride. He is the man who gambled on violence and lost. And believe me, he is going to lose. I think in the Trump White House, the scales have now fallen from their eyes about Putin. And there is a real possibility that in just a couple of days, August the 8th, isn't it? Those countries, third countries that have been enabling Putin's war by buying his hydrocarbon, India and China, will be hit hard by secondary sanctions. And of course, I don't think any of those countries imagined for a second when this war began that they might in time be visited by that kind of punishment. And I dwell on the lesson of Ukraine, not because the comparison is perfect, clearly there are important differences, but to make this basic point that if you trigger violence, for you and for the entire world. And so that's why it's so vital that we address this problem in a way that I think the people of Taiwan want. We heard it just now from the President. It's vital that we address it in the way that I think the people of Britain want and the world want. And that is to have peaceful dialogue across the Straits of Taiwan. And I think, without be totally respectful, but we should ask our colleagues in Beijing to explain just why is it so essential to you to conquer Taiwan? When this island presents no conceivable threat to you, is it really worth the risk? Is it really worth the risk, Beijing, when the consequences for the whole world could be so dire? And by the way, is it really necessary for every segment of the Chinese population to be ruled by the Chinese Communist Party? Can there not be places, beautiful places, that are differently Chinese? Of course there can. I think, by the way, it's a fantastic, I think it's an advantage for Beijing to have this innovative society, this incredibly fertile in technological developments, right next door, investing massively, by the way, in China. And at the same time, we say to our Taiwanese friends, the purpose of my mission here today, we say to our Taiwanese friends, we're with you. We stand with you because you are, as has been said, in the front line of the struggle against autocracies. We're with you for strategic reasons, because no one wants the chaos, confusion, and uncertainty that would follow such a change in the balance of power. No one wants that. No one wants war, and certainly no one wants Chinese domination of the first island chain. We're also with you, quite frankly, for economic reasons, aren't we? Your vital role in global supply chains, at least as I say in microprocessors. And all I can say in conclusion is that as China intensifies its pressure on Taiwan, I hope that we all, the West, America, the UK, all the Europeans, will have the courage not to tiptoe away, not to be cowed by our desire to be deferential to Beijing, but to stand with Taiwan and to deepen our economic partnership. That's what we need to do right now as the pressure intensifies on Taiwan. And last night, I can tell you, I had a wonderful time. Last night, I went out to a restaurant called Din Tai Fung, I think. It was absolutely rammed with people, and they were eating more different and more complicated types of dumplings than I've ever seen in my life. It was a sort of temple to dumplings. He was devoted to the cult of the dumpling. And I met a guy there last night, and I'd met him before because actually, about 6 years ago, I helped to open the first Din Tai Fung. Have I got that right? Yeah. I happened to open the first Din Tai Fung in London, and they got me to make some dumplings very unsuccessfully. And I am thrilled to say that since then there are now 3 such Din Tai Fungs in London, and Taiwanese influence is spreading the whole time. And UK-Taiwan trade, you should know, I am proud to say, is growing and growing fast. £9 billion this year. Financial services, Johnny Walker, obviously seems to be very important. I noticed all sorts of different colour Johnny Walker, indigo label, mauve label. I don't know. I've never tasted any of these drinks, but they seem to be very popular here in Taiwan. Obviously, very good for the Scottish economy. And we should intensify that economic partnership, and we are very pleased that the UK office here is well staffed and highly active. And in the end, folks, we're with you for the best reason of all, which is that we share your values. UK, Taiwan, we're 2 island democracies who understand that freedom is not just a wonderful thing because it helps you build a better silicon chip. But it obviously does, and Taiwan is the proof of that, right? I've made that point. We're with you because we both understand that freedom is also a wonderful thing in principle, and it's a wonderful thing in itself. So thank you, Taiwan. Thank you for your bravery and for standing up for freedom in a very difficult and dangerous path. You will have our support, and let us stand up for freedom together. Thank you all very, very much for having me at your conference today. Thank you.
Thank you. Many thanks to the Right Honorable Boris Johnson for his inspiring and powerful speech. Mr. Johnson, please depart from your right-hand side. Thank you very much. Let us give him a round of applause once again as we thank him for his steadfast support and bid him farewell for his departure. Thank you. Mr. Johnson's unwavering commitment to the values of freedom and democracy and his enduring friendship with Taiwan are sincerely valued and will long be remembered. And once again, I'd like to also thank Deputy Minister Wu for hosting and presenting introductory remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now take a short break. Our next session, the panel discussion 1, will begin at 10:30. Please return to your seat promptly before 10:30 and allow us to start the next session timely. And we have some refreshments and beverages prepared outside of the hall for you. And please be reminded to keep your valuables with you at all times. Thank you and see you later.
On the other hand, we will also do live readings. And readings will be the way that we will show you how you can have class on the topic. In minutes, I want you to try your best to speak English. But Roland, if you have any questions, if there is anything you want to ask, you can ask anytime. Alright, thank you, Johnny. What did you do today? Okay, you mean forward? But yeah, what did you do today? For example, did you work today?
No.
Today is your holiday.
Yes, it's holiday.
Okay, alright. And no, it is my job. Sure. Then can you tell? What did you do?
I'm doing my learning fish.
Okay, this is also not asking what you do from what do you do is asking to do forward living. So actually, this question what you is asking what is your job? What is your job?
Your job is 7-Eleven.
You work at 7-Eleven.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Talk about the company. Oh, I work at 7-Eleven. Work at 7-Eleven. Well, 7-Eleven, which is the convenience store. All right. I guess it is really busy to working at 7-Eleven, right?
Yes.
Right, yeah, there's a lot of things to do. Then can you tell me, well, where do you live?
I live in Jiayu.
Okay, you live in Jiayi. Is Jiayi your hometown?
Yes.
Okay, so you live in Jiayi, and you are from Jiayi. You're from Jiayi. It is your hometown.
Yes.
Good. All right, then tell me. Well, how is the weather? How is the weather in Jiayi?
The weather is summer in Jiayu.
Oh, okay. It is Sunday.
Yes.
Sunday. Okay, I see. It is sunny. Okay. Then can you tell me, well, what do you like to do on a Sunday? What do you like to do on a Sunday?
Swimming.
You like to go swimming? Okay, good. Yeah, I like to go swimming. Okay, you like to go swimming at the swimming, or you like to go swimming at the sea?
Swimming pool.
You like to go to the swimming pool? Okay, very good, very good. So that's a good and happy thing. Alright, then let's continue with it. You some more practice. Well, you already said you like swimming. Then can you also tell me, so what are your hobbies?
My hobby is play game or listen to music.
Oh, okay, good, good. You can say that. My hobby is more than one. So you can say my hobbies are playing games and listening music. Okay, play games. Sure. What kind of games do you like?
I like gun games.
You mean shoot? The shooting game? Like you shoot a gun?
Shooting gun.
Okay. Well, in English, we would say they are shooting games. You should say I like shooting games. For example, Okay, very good. That's a good thing for us to have. Alright, let's continue with it. Go into the reading. Okay, well, so far, I think you have good understanding for of course, some of the steps, there are some details. What we talk about past, what we talk about right now. The sentences are a little bit different. So far, probably practice a little bit. But that's okay. To show how we usually have that conversation. Okay, usually, content of class on the topic. Each class will have different topics, or we can say it's different themes. And for different classes, we will talk about different things. For example, this topic, this reading is talking about company culture. So you know, yes. So in this reading, we would read and talk a lot of things about company, about job, and even about working environment. Talk about what kind of job and how to use it. Okay, and of course, the topic we will do with the reading, we will try to speak all the audio, and we will try to make sure we understand all the words and all the sentences. And more importantly, not just to understand the word, we need to practice using it. We need to practice saying the word, and we want to have some conversation. Okay, so here, well, Roy, I would like you to read out. Please read out about
our company is bringing culture. We don't have to wear uniforms. We can also work as many times. Sometimes we work at night, and sometimes during the day. In shift James company give their works for 30 days off. Our company always has a formal meeting in the morning. In summer companies, people use first names when they speak to each other.
Okay, very good. Thank you for reading. Well, first of all, tell me, would you say this reading is really hard, or you would say, oh, it is really easy? Okay, it's quite easy, not hard. Alright, let me try to ask you some questions. The first sentence is, our company is pretty casual. Okay, tell me, Rowan, is your job casual? Or is your job formal or strict?
Informal.
Okay, it is informal, it is not really formal. Okay, I guess it's probably a good thing. Yeah, working in the company is what is very, very busy, so probably not casual, but hopefully it will also not be formal, not strict. Okay, and if you need to wear uniform, okay, alright, and later we can work out many times, such as night or the day, it is to work in shift. Some people do usually work day shift, or do usually work night shift.
Day shift.
Oh, okay. So you don't really work at night. Okay, alright. Okay, let's continue. Here we say, James' company gives their workers 40 days of annual leave. 40 days of annual leave. Okay, well, do you know what is annual leave? What is annual leave? Okay, Well, annually is talking about this is a kind of holiday you get every year. Well, this is the holiday that the company gives you every year, and you can choose. You can decide when do you want to go. So, for example, maybe I want to go to Japan for 2 weeks. Oh, but my holiday, Saturday and Sunday, is not off, so I will use my annual leave. Okay. Well, and also there's some other things as well. It is not just that I can choose. Usually you choose when you use it. But on the other hand, well, we will also increase when you are let's say this company for longer. When you work in this company long, you will have more days. But if I only work here for 1 year, or maybe I only have 7 days or 3 days or something. Maybe I'm working in this company for 20 years. Oh, I can have 25 days. Okay, when you tell me, well, how long is your Okay, it is 1 year and 7 days. You mean this is how long you're working? You're working in company 7 days or 1 year?
7 days.
Okay, so I guess you're working in company 1 year and you have 7 days.
7 days.
So how long have you worked in 7 months?
Ladies and gentlemen, our next session will begin in 3 minutes. May I invite all of you to please take your seats. Thank you. Our next session will begin shortly.
How long have you worked in a company? This is asking the total, like you work in this company for 2 years. How long is it? How long have you worked? 7 months. For example, I've worked like 30 years. Okay, what about you? How long have you worked in 7
4 months.
2 months.
4 months.
Oh, okay. 4 months. Okay, good. We can say that I have worked 7-Eleven. I have worked here for 4 months. Okay. Alright, so probably, well, we can have more than. Okay. And the person say we always have formal meetings. We always have important meetings. Okay. And in some people use first name. They just use the name. Alright, well, this is not a real class today. But if you have class, then I will try to ask some more questions about, for example, how do you feel about your company? What are some things you know and what are some things you try? There are other things we can try to talk and okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, our next session is about to begin shortly. I'd like to invite all of you to please take your seats. Thank you.
Together. Like today, we already know a lot of words, but we have to practice more to make sentences and also to use conversations or interactions. And for you, well, you can decide first of all, okay, well, what do you want to use? Okay, well, you can think of that, oh, maybe I want to use words at work. So, like for a company, yeah, I can try to talk about the fact that or maybe you want to use words for travel. Then we also have some lessons about travel. Or the culture, like okay, there are many different kinds of lessons we have. Or even like technology. For example, this reading is talking about artificial intelligence. It's talking about AI. You can decide what do you want to use. And we will always have some reason, have some and try to understand. These are the things that we okay, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, panel discussion 1 will begin shortly. I'd like to invite all of you to please take your seats. Thank you.
Jordan. See you next time.
Okay, bye-bye.
Please get back to you, Jordan.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the forum. And now we will proceed to a panel discussion titled New Geopolitical Security Landscapes in the Indo-Pacific. There are 5 panelists in this session, respectively from Canada, the Philippines, India, Japan, and Taiwan. And now, ladies and gentlemen, please give a round of applause to welcome our moderator of panel 1, Dr. Lai Yizhong, the president of the Prospect Foundation. Welcome, Dr. Lai, and now I give the floor over to you. Welcome.
Thank you, and welcome all of you to the first session of this year's Ketagalan Forum. After hearing the exciting speech by our president and also the former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Boris Johnson, I believe that all of you will be excited about what will come out in this session. This session is about the new geopolitical security landscape in the Indo-Pacific. Of course, we know that the Indo-Pacific is about 3/5 of the world population and 2/3 of world trade. But in addition to that, the war in Ukraine 3 years ago integrates the European theater and Indo-Pacific security environment altogether. But in addition to those integrations, in the past years, the Chinese aggressiveness, as well as U.S. policy changes since year 2017, also fundamentally changed the security development and environment for the Indo-Pacific as well. But I think that this is not just about the U.S.-China competition in the Indo-Pacific. What the country in this region react would also play a very significant role. So you can see that in these first sessions, for the first time, usually when we talk about security, we always have a united American here at the podium. But this time, probably for the first time that we do not have any Americans here. But that is intended because we want to highlight the agency of the country in this region, so that we have 5 distinguished panelists. They all have a very distinguished career in their belt. The first one to speak will be Dr. Gloria Jumanmil Mercado. She's a chairperson and chief executive officer of the Asian Center for Excellence in Development and Security in the Philippines. Of course, she also is a seasoned career bureaucrat, have a very extensive experience working at the Philippine National Security Council as a senior undersecretary for the education, among other positions. And then she will be followed by Dr. Raya Mohan, Distinguished Fellow, Council for Strategic and Defense Research, Delhi, India. Dr. Raya Mohan is a very well security and strategic writer in its field, not only in India but also in Indo-Pacific. I'm a big fan of his writing. Every month he publishes a ISAS in the Singapore think tank. I'm every reader for that publications. So tip my hat to him. And then the third one will be Dr. Tomohiko Taniguchi. Especially he's specifically appointed as professor of University of Tsukuba, Japan. But I think the other experience that Dr. Tomohiko Taniguchi carried is that he's a special policy advisor to former Prime Minister Abe Shinzo. Various Abe Shinzo's his very important speech, including the conclusions of 2 C's, and among others, for the Indo-Pacific strategy, is actually under Dr. Taniguchi Tomohiko, his writings. And then the next, it will be very own from Taiwan, Dr. Chen Mumin. He's just appointed as ambassador of Taiwan to India, and actually he was about to depart today, but for this specific event, he delayed his arrival to India for 1 day. so that he will depart tomorrow. So we are really glad to have him. And then last but not least is Honorable Jason Kenney from Canada, 18th Premier of the Alberta, and he is also former Canadian Defense Minister. So we'll speak in this order, and each one will have 10 minutes. So, please.
Good morning, Chairman Chen. Thank you for the introduction of everyone here. So, distinguished colleagues, esteemed delegates of this forum, and fellow security professionals, I'd like to greet the Chief of Mission of the Manila Economic and Cultural Office, who's also Manila International Defense College. Good morning. It is both an honor and a privilege to speak to you today on the theme of resilience and relevance. Two words that capture not just a mindset, but a national imperative for the Philippines. The Indo-Pacific has emerged as the center of the 21st century geopolitics, an expansive and complex region where economic dynamism, military rivalry, and strategic uncertainty collide. As a frontline state, the Philippines finds increasingly at the heart of this contest, with its strategic location astride the South China Sea and the Western Pacific, its democratic credentials, and its security alliances. The Philippines is uniquely positioned to both contribute to and be impacted by the evolving geopolitical and security landscape of the Indo-Pacific. It is transitioning from a loose geographic label to a contested strategic construct. While the term has gained currency among like-minded states, it also highlights a deepening rivalry between the United States and China, alongside the growing assertiveness of middle powers. In a dynamic context, the country faces increasing pressure to define its position not merely in terms of alignment, but in terms of principle and strategic agency. The Philippines is an active participant, seeking a careful balance between deterrence and diplomacy, sovereignty and cooperation. Geographically, the Philippine maritime domain includes some of the most strategically significant waters in the world. The South China Sea, where the country asserts sovereign rights within its exclusive economic zone, remains an epicenter of regional tension. Our maritime geography, with over 7,600 islands, 36,000 kilometers of coastline, and rich archipelagic sea lanes, is our source of leverage. It sits at the vortex of Indo-Pacific, and our position in the first island chain, adjacent to key maritime choke points, makes us a pivotal actor in both strategic deterrence and regional stability. As a frontline state, in the region defined by strategic contestation and emerging fault lines, the Philippines is inclined to lead and collaborate. Leadership must be anchored in principled pragmatism, informed foresight, and strategic empathy, values that recognizes the enduring power of geography, the volatility of geopolitics, and the promise of shared security. The Philippines must therefore develop its own comprehensive maritime strategy that integrates diplomacy, security, and blue economy, investing in a maritime infrastructure, enhancing our Coast Guard capabilities, and asserting our rights to sustain legal and diplomatic mechanism will define whether we remain active or proactive. Our security architecture is evolving. The Mutual Defense Treaty, Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement, and joint exercises in Belgrade with the United States and allied countries reflect enduring alliances. But what we are building now is not deeper than just interoperability and mutual preparedness. but also strategic resilience. Even with expanded EDCA, it should strengthen also other engagement with countries like Australia, Japan, and South Korea, as it demonstrates a new kind of strategic geometry, a flexible, layered deterrence ecosystem, and transcends binary alignments. We are witnessing emergence of unilateral architectures, the Quad, AUKUS, IPEF, in response to an eroding multilateral order. The evolution demands clarity of purpose and depth of partnership. Amidst this evolving defense architecture, our ASEAN centrality is being tested. The very principles of non-interference and consensus, once diplomatic strength, now risk becoming liabilities. The delayed code of conduct is symptomatic of deeper engagement. If ASEAN is to remain central, it must also be courageous, reforming not to appease but to assert. In the shifting landscape, UNCLOS must remain our compass, a legal framework and strategic shield. The Philippines must push for regional UNCLOS 2.0 dialogue. This includes creating enforcement mechanism, shared surveillance, and a tribunal that can act on non-compliance. He must also embed UNCLOS education, their legal and diplomatic core, and national curriculum. Development is security, and security is development. The Philippines must be a rich nation, principled, not neutral, sovereign, not submissive. Our foreign policy must be values-driven, issues-based, and unapologetically Filipino. To that end, we propose 5 key factors: mutual defense agreement, like Sea Vision, Indo-Pacific Partnership for Maritime Domain Awareness, regional disaster resilience hubs, and Cebu and Davao. Critical infrastructure, foreign equity restriction must be updated with cybersecurity in mind, and push for rotational ASEAN Security Council for eminent persons to fast-track reform. In sum, security in the framework of Indo-Pacific is not just about survival. It is about who we are and what we choose to stand for. When history places us in the crossroad, let our people in this region find us as a source of principled strength and quiet courage. After all, in the age of uncertainty, as whether we are from small or big country, we must all be both a shield and a bridge. Therefore, for the Philippines, it should be resilient relevance within the Indo-Pacific. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gloria Mercado, for your statement. I think at the end of your speech, we talked about the security is not just about survival, it's about who we are and what we choose to sign. That's quite important. So with that in mind, next I will invite Dr.
Thank you. I hope I can finish on time. Let me begin by thanking you. Together, most of the voice converting
机制的话，什么叫机制？简单说就是比较偏，不能说，因为它的优点就是，它的优点就是 conversation 可以跟那个不管是同龄和不同龄都是可以。如果有想要 conversation 都可以通过 English 的 conversation 这种的方式，这是优点。而缺点是，就是能进步的是可以进步，要不能说退步啊，退步有点，要更精进是可以进步的。这可能有一些人可能就是要我们其实还要顾虑到一些其他人的进步，这是缺点。然后一对一的话，
优点是立即纠正，就是立即纠正，然后也可以和老师conversation，然后有不懂的或有一方面错的话，可以立即的纠正。它缺点就是只能就是完全说难听就是没朋友。
OK， 来，没错，我想要跟他们知道一下，刚才了解那我还是简单听。因为小孩还是最主要的，因为平常同学啊，第一个成绩会比第二个他的时间会比他教材的时间做错了，中了这3个他才有可能所以今天其实只有你一个人，今天只有你一个人上课，连自动设计对，整体来说啊，小黄课它的好处就是它的健康的问题，给大家提供上来，像你讲的有点选，如果有时候不会的，OK，那你的作品不会的，我说你没想到的话，就一起来上，对，所以小黄课没错，但今天对一般大家都是比如学生，然后那样的沉默一点，就是没有同学没有错，但是你看都是同学实验。这一堂课都是同学他多少那60到也是15分，一个人有稍微有10，2个过程，所以才会觉得在一起练最好的。
知道，反正综合这样子，优缺点平均起来，一个感觉是这样。
OK，那今天我会介绍。好吧，依照你自己所想的所要的，OK。好，没问题。这里的话，类似比方说问题，就是让若是你一开始常在学习哪一方面，我才是所以好。
那我可能要先等我自己因为我还有些事情没忙。
私人之前，你今天中午刚忙完，会说没有，OK，因为这是上整体来说，我会给你今天我就是去什么分析
So I think this is.
我出啊，没啦，你换灯来，这个说呢。你就第一家这家子也好，惊我知，不是太难。
But I think we're just at the beginning of this process because most of we are just.
真难找。
你今天要出来要不要看啊？
你唔敢看？
我去。
我嘛做过，我一定出去，我靠，我嘛明白我的。
So I don't think we should underestimate the consequences of what is going rearranging. So I think this is going to be a big challenge for most of us because when it comes to the type of American one of the which is demanding a lot more. So this, my sense is going to be quite significant because of the third aspect is on the question of those of you
我去放轻松，你这代志惊我知，用做你怪怪哦，怪卡哦。
now this notion that usually is again money is raising money is about taxation. Taxation is always a painful process. Being the most important. So therefore, to lead the industry in terms of a higher defense expenditure, while nobody is going to
可是是妈妈吗？还是家人？喂，听得到吗？我听啊，声音好弱。Hello， 听得到吗？听得到吗 ？Hello， wrong。听得到吗 ？OK， 好，没问题。那这刚刚有聊到，你说你介绍是整件宣传的。
Moderator of this panel actually said, we all have agency, and I think the idea that.
我的可以听到吗？听到吗？有吗？
Change American people. We must break out this program, which means that we need to engage a lot more with Americans, dealing with different possibilities. America by design is not how these play out in the next year or two this remains to see. Therefore, I think for us, it's important to focus on greater engagement with the U.S. domestic politics. That new actors relate to the country for the longer term. And we have to say, the contradictions between China and the US are not going to the same. How much the current policies, that contradiction is not going to the same. So is the contradiction between China and the US. The assertive China has consequences for its neighbors, unless something big happens within China. That tension between China's assertiveness and inevitable, and I think these two contradictions between China and the United States and China and its neighbors is not support. The question is, how do we prepare to deal with the next phase of Indo-Pacific?
Thank you, Dr. Mohan, for your statement. I think that you particularly highlight about the reason why the current U.S. policy toward other nations in terms of tariff, because there are the fundamental economic readjustment that needs to be made. So we appreciate for that important highlights. But next, I'd like to invite Dr. Taniguchi, Tomiko Taniguchi, for your comments.
We are with you, Boris Johnson told us. With his uncombed hair, permanent public boy style, it's hard to dislike him. July 8th, 3 years ago, 2022, Prime Minister Abe got shot, died. The next plan that he had was to come to this country, Taiwan. And I'm sure he would have delivered a powerful speech to the Taiwanese audience. And I would have thought he would have written that speech. Had he delivered a speech, he would have said very much similar to what Boris Johnson that we are with you. The Japanese are with you. But we would have said it differently. We must be with you. We will have to be with you. The Japanese will continue to have to be with you. It is inevitable. Why? Because never before has the security of Taiwan so closely linked to that of Japan. Never before have the waters in the South China Sea, East China Sea, around Japan been this much contested. And the next 10, 15 years will be very much important window, space of time in which there must be heightened cooperation, collaboration among like-minded democratic nations. Three of us are very much important: the Philippines, India, and Japan. I echo Dr. Rajamohan has just said. There must be intensified coordinations among democratic maritime nations. I can share some of the positive developments that I see late. One, Indo-Filipino naval collaboration. That's just hit today's newspaper headlines. Also today, I hear something very much positive. For the first time ever, the Japanese naval boat, I think, is going to be adopted by the Royal Australian Navy. That is going to seal the quasi-alliance that's been taking place for some time between Canberra and Tokyo. To confront the behemoth next door hurts. It is painful, which is why there must be constant dialogues, constant collaborations, and even more military to military collaborations among those nations. Dr. Rajamohan also said that it is imperative for all of us to maintain the presence of the US military forces. May I tell you, the most important key player to make it happen is your northern neighbor. That's Japan. Because Japan hosts the biggest military footprint of the United States outside its mainland. If you lose Taiwan, the United States will automatically lose almost everything. From Misawa up north, which is an Air Force base, Yokosuka, that is the biggest naval port, that home ports one of the biggest aircraft carrier battle force, Sasebo, and Kadena, Okinawa. Forces stationed in those places will lose strategic value if you lose Taiwan's territorial waters and airspace. So, the late Prime Minister Abe, before he passed away, mentioned a number of times crisis in Taiwan automatically invites Japan and the United States to get engaged, and we must be prepared for it. 10 years ago, the Japanese government under Abe enacted a law without massive oppositions from the protesters, which enable the country Japan for the first time to work as a unit, cohesive unit with its alliance partners, notably the United States, thinking that when the United States will get engaged, the Japanese will have to be there side by side. Since that time, the framework has been broadened to include other alliance partners, the Philippines, Australia, India. Such is a framework that's been in place, and we've got to continue to invest in that framework by, once again, working together all the time for the next 10, 15 years. Xi Jinping has his own biological clock, so he will get even more frustrated going forward, and he will find it even more imperative for China to annex Taiwan. They say Taiwan is part of China, but Taiwanese identity is something else. Just as Japanese identity has been quite different from what the Chinese want the Japanese to be. We've been a proud nation. The Japanese have always been proud, just as an outlier of Chinese civilization. We're proud to be an outlier. And I think the same thing can be made to a lesser degree perhaps about Taiwan. Now, one final note. In 2 weeks' time, 3 weeks' time, Tokyo is going to host HMS Prince of Wales and its strike force. That's one of the 2 newly commissioned modern aircraft carriers, and the British government has made it clear that the dispatch of the squadron is going to be regularized. In such a way, we could send a continued powerful signal to Beijing, and we must, that your so-called Chinese dream will cost a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Taniguchi, for your statement. I think that when you mentioned about the former Prime Minister Shinzo's speech, all of us maybe remember exactly 4 years ago, December, the Prime Minister Shinzo, he talks about Taiwan rise up. So that still reckon and resonates with a lot of people here. So thank you for your comments. And then next, I'd like to invite Ambassador Chen Ming for your comments.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here today. We know Ketagalan Forum is the biggest conference in Taiwan, talking about security and strategic issues. And this is a nice year. I also have the honor to attend most of forums in the past years. One of the biggest topic every year at the first session, we talk about regional security, strategic development. The biggest issue is China. From the first time to today, it's always about China. And I believe of course, all the audience here today are experts on security issues of the region. And some of you probably this is your first time coming to Taiwan, and you probably curious what Taiwan about China. I would say that in the past decades, we've been watching the development of China, particularly since China's economic reform of 1980s. it was a tremendous success. And Taiwan began having trade and exchanges with China since the 1990s. And Taiwan also benefited a lot. Even today, the trade and also people exchange between both sides still there. But the biggest change of China, I think, this is my personal view, is that Xi Jinping came in 2012, and then in the next few years, he shows more ambition and now become like a national goal. Earlier, for the Chinese leaders and also for the Chinese society, they think that the unification it is possible, but they can wait. But after Xi Jinping became the leader, he changed the whole course. And in Taiwan, we began to hear this forced foreign occupation. So what we saw, around Taiwan, this military exercise around Taiwan, and all these diplomatic or military pressure on Taiwan, is because of the whole idea that China right now is thinking they might force Taiwan into submission with the military or more forceful ways. So this is what I call a Taiwan challenge. Yeah. And of course, and we know that Taiwan is a young democracy. Taiwan is also a very successful technology island. We make great contribution to the world economy and also technology innovation. But because of this challenge, from our neighbor, so we always have to think that how to make Taiwan safe, how to protect our dignity, and how to by preserving the security of the Taiwan Strait, that we could make contribution to the region. But in Taiwan, we also have problems that probably make it difficult for us to make Taiwan a very strong and solid entity. Because not everyone in Taiwan believes that we should have a very strong position on China. Even today, for both sides, Taiwan and China, we still have a direct flight, 300 per week. And the last year, we still have about 3 million people between both sides of the city. And so, when the government of Taiwan, when the society of Taiwan was thinking that how we defend ourselves and how we can prevent that the penetration of these Chinese authoritarian ideas in Taiwanese society. Because of the intensive changes between both sides, make it extremely difficult. So for any government of Taiwan to protect our dignity, it's a big challenge. Yeah, that how we can, convince the people that what we are doing right now is important, and what we could do to enhance our military capability to improve our society resilience is critical. It's very, very important, but also difficult to convince all the people. But fortunately, I think that the external environment also changes in the past few years. Countries, some of our neighbors, and also in the past 3 years, also see the Philippines. They also share more concerns about Taiwan. So we could see that there are more changes and also cooperation between both sides. The purpose is to create and also to enhance the more security environment. And on the other hand, I think that Taiwan also want to send the message to the whole world that what Taiwan can do to make our world safer. And the purpose for Taiwan, of course, is to defend ourselves, but also to to try to find a way that how we could watch China closely. And because we know that China is a political system, that Xi Jinping as a leader, and that he and the whole society authoritarian, it's not natural. That China's economy is in recession in the past years. So how we could see China closely and prevent China from becoming more unstable is very, very important. So I think what I want to say in the end is first we have to cooperate to make a more a security environment in the Taiwan Strait and also in the Indo-Pacific. And second, we have to watch China closely and prevent all kinds of scenarios to watch out what China and Xi Jinping and also Chinese government, in the future. And third, I think that the most important thing is that Taiwan has to continue preserving and also protect our rights. This is, I think, the most important thing. And even Taiwan share a lot of things with China, cultural history, language. But I think that Taiwan, we still have our own thing, and we have our identity. This is something we have to try our best. So, okay, so I'll stop here, and so later maybe we will have a discussion on this issue.
Thank you, Ambassador Chen Bumin, for your comments. Next, I'd like to invite Defense Minister Jason Kenney for your comment.
Well, thank you. Very happy. He's one of the most outspoken supporters of Taiwan and Canadian politics for 30 years. Very happy and proud to be here and to say that Canada is sometimes an afterthought in these discussions about Indo-Pacific security and strategy, but I think that we're on the cusp of changing that. I think that Canada is waking out of its naivete about the nature of the Beijing regime and maybe moving towards playing a much larger role economically and strategically in this region. Maybe a little context here. In 1970, Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau, Justin's dad, recognized the People's Republic of China. I think it was the second major Western country to do so. And ever since then, until recently, the Canadian political and economic elites had a very close and at times almost incestuous relationship with senior PRC Politburo level leadership, which I think compromised our objectivity in looking at the broader Indo-Pacific region. In fact, in the 1970s, we had a massive strategic rupture with the country that I think is our natural anchor alliance in Asia, which is India, over nuclearization of weaponization of nuclear technology. And most of our commercial and diplomatic efforts were focused on the PRC very early on. That started to change under Prime Minister Harper between 2005 and 2015, the government in which I played a role. But even then, I had a cabinet colleague who was our Minister of Foreign Affairs who, in his first day in office, having been briefed by his officials, referred to the PRC as a Canadian ally. And Justin Trudeau, who just thankfully left after a decade in office, once said that his most preferred country in the world after Canada was, quotes, the basic dictatorship of China. He went on to explain it's because it's a dictatorship that they can do big things like build windmills and solar panels. So that kind of, naivete and cynicism, same but it's a strange toxic combination of naivete and cynicism, led to a kind of blindness about the stakes that Taiwan, Japan, Philippines, and other countries in this region are facing, given Xi's increasing aggression, his aggressive posture. But things have begun to change. I think first of all, I attribute the change to Trump in his first administration, his disruption of the post-WTO accession consensus around the notion that China had to be the center of global trade. And I think Trump basically, he said the emperor had no clothes, and forced a rethink across the developed West about the failure of our shared efforts to get a balanced trading relationship and strategic relationship with China. But I think that opened up the floodgates for a lot of the skeptics to speak more loudly. Secondly, it became, when that started, when that reflection began, people saw that Canada, like the United States, like I think Europe, have been huge losers in the post-WTO accession China trade relationship, thanks in part to grossly deliberate, unfair trading practices, currency manipulation, industrial espionage, copyright violation, total lack of judicial recourse in China, etc. And so that began to change the debate in Canada. Thirdly, we had a series of leaks from our security and intelligence agencies about very serious and aggressive PRC efforts to destabilize and interfere in Canadian domestic politics. Most of this obviously done through the United Front Work Department, like in Australia and some other countries. They've actually set up de facto police stations in Canada to police the mainland diaspora population, which is growing in size. And many of the mainland diaspora organizations in Canada have been under huge influence, funding pressure, etc., and intimidation tactics to become defenders of the agenda of the PRC. And this has created a huge scandal in Canada, led to a judicial inquiry, and we are still feeling the consequences. Then, you may recall that Canada, based on U.S. extradition application, detained Madam Meng, who is the daughter of the CEO of Huawei, which led to a huge diplomatic fight with the PRC, including the indefinite detention for, I think it was 3 years, of a Canadian diplomatic, Canadian citizen. Many other Canadian citizens have basically been imprisoned in China, we think, arbitrarily, and many other things. Of course, Canada has actually suffered more deaths per capita than the United States as a result of the fentanyl crisis, almost all of the constituent elements of which have been produced in and shipped out of the PRC. So all of that has meant that the same political and commercial elites who were the amen corner for the PRC have lost face and have now been marginalized, and there is a new consensus. And I'm pleased to say that in some modest but meaningful ways, that's been expressed in Canada, greater cooperation, technical and other cooperation with Taiwan. I'm very proud as a former defense minister, the son of a former Canadian Navy officer, to say the Royal Canadian Navy has now deployed destroyers to do several voyages through the Taiwan Strait, some of them unescorted, and there is growing technical cooperation to come in security areas. Now, as I intimated, normally there have been huge efforts to kind of pivot to India as a natural kind of new anchor for Canadian relations in the region, not to diminish our important relations with countries. But that too has been complicated, as Monji knows, because of matters that we hope to get past soon, with the Prime Minister Hardy having invited Narendra Modi to the G7 summit in Alberta. Let me say that you're going to see Canada playing a larger role in defense. Now, Trump has been a hugely, as Mohanji articulated, the ways in which Trump has been such a game-changing figure in the strategic context. That is very true for Canada. I come from the Conservative Party, which had a 25% point lead in the polls for election this March, which we ended up losing because of President Trump's threats to annex Canada. We don't take those quite as seriously as President Xi's threats to annex Taiwan, but they were very disruptive nevertheless, and he seems to have focused on Canada as, for some reason, as a particular target in his new trade arrangements. So for my friends here who are all facing, I think, 25% tariffs, don't feel too bad. We have a 35% tariff from the U.S. But one of the advantages of this disruptiveness has been forcing Canada to finally get serious about national security. We played a hugely oversized role in the first two world wars. We exited the Second War of one of the largest militaries in the world, and we carried 1/5 the burden on D-Day. But we have taken far more than our share of the post-Cold War peace dividend. Thanks in part to the pressure from Trump, we are finally moving our defense expenditure from 1.3 to 2% of GDP, and with a commitment to go to 5%. With a part of that involves a huge rebuild of the Canadian military, 60 new frigate destroyers being built. We're probably on the cusp of an order for 12 new modern submarines, and much more to come. And the Canadian defense strategy and our Indo-Pacific strategy underscore Indo-Pacific security of the global shipping lines in this region, and the Canadian Indo-Pacific strategy actually mentions Taiwan in a positive light in several instances. And so, and then finally, let me say, we're never going to be a military superpower, but we are a superpower in energy and natural resources. We have the third largest oil reserves in the world, the third largest natural gas reserve, the second largest uranium deposits, by far the largest potash and therefore fertilizer deposits, and we have the entire spectrum of rare earth and critical minerals. Now, we have had very serious challenges at developing a lot of those resources and getting them to market, which is kind of the central domestic political issue in Canada right now. But I think Prime Minister Carney comes from a different party than me. Is going to break through those barriers through rapid and dramatic deregulation. If that happens, we can be an alternative source for the United States, for Australia, for our Indo-Pacific partners on critical minerals and on energy. Finally, Professor, you asked us to comment on whether domestic politics is affecting any of these things. And I would say, coming back to the malignant work of the PRC's agents in Canada, that the efforts to pivot away from a Canadian policy focused on Beijing are complicated by their interference in our domestic politics. Finally, let me say that when we talk about the Indo-Pacific, we should not imagine that Europe is on a different planet. I think Prime Minister Johnson was exactly right. And I believe the single most powerful thing that Western countries can do to preclude Chinese aggression in this region is to demonstrate that Putin's aggression in Ukraine will not succeed.
Thank you very much for your comment, Honorable Jason Kenney. And then now we open to the Q&A. So if you have any questions, please raise your hand so that I can identify you. And please, when you ask questions, please identify yourself as well as who you want them to answer. Okay? And before we begin, I'd like to lay out my question first. This issue is about how you're going to see your personal assessment about the Chinese actions. We do know that the Chinese economy in the past, after the COVID is actually going down. And it's continued decline. We do not see any sign of it showing the vitality and coming back soon. But also, on top of that, is about the top leadership as well military leadership, the continued version of those. Some people suggest that there probably something is coming within China, but let's talk about how each of your countries are feeling about the Chinese action toward yours, whether those developments affected their action toward yours, and how your country also react to the possible development within China. I do know that the Ambassador Chen Muming already put your assessment regarding China, so I'm just laid out this question to the author of the European media, Japan, and Canada.
Thank you. I'm not going to respond to the question focused on China, but I see three great things that are forthcoming on the horizon. One is the possible change in this leadership. Second is should there be an aggressive or early an aggressive move for Taiwan. The third is the forthcoming election of the Philippines in 2020. So, while there are challenges, internal challenges in China right now, even a change in leadership would mean continuous assertion of regional aggressiveness, and that's going to be very impactful for the Philippines because that would mean we have to continue to put up with all the water cannons and occupation of some of our islands. But the Philippines will always respond within the context of law, within the context of collaboration with other countries, and also within what is allowed by international order. Second is that we cannot be just a bystander in the event that China would invade or be aggressive with Taiwan, for the simple reason that anything that happens in Taiwan would actually affect the Philippines. Number one, we have 200,000 Filipinos in Taiwan. 160,000 of them are overseas Filipino workers. Other than that, 46% of our semiconductors and ICTs are linked to Taiwan. So it has big implications, not only economically but also are very deep people-to-people relations. And our election would have also strong implications in Indo-Pacific, considering that we have strong contenders for 2028 that are considered to be pro-China. And so we are worried that should those personalities win in the 2028, there's going to be a pivot back to China. So our elections has been marred, the midterm election has been marred by disinformation and even an attack on our commission of election. So we have seen that the digital space has been weaponized already. So there are so many things that we need to consider insofar as what our government, what our people should do in the forthcoming days. So with that, I would like to say that it's a lot of big work, not only for the Philippines, but for all other countries who believe that the Philippines can be a model of how it stand up to all the coercions through cooperations and rule of law. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
I agree with ultimately that China's economy slowed down. But here's the problem. Those who come to the world with the domination of global economies, the monopolies on critical tech sector. So China's capacity to again increase the competition, its capacity to put economic pressure will remain. So therefore, how do we supply the interdependence while reducing it? I think it's a big policy challenge for most of us. It's going to be enduring for a long time. Second, I think, is the Chinese philosophy in India. So India has stood up and still have about 17,000 feet of basic China. That is Chinese movement. For us in India, we saw in the case of the recent US conflict with Pakistan, that was supply of resources, their ability to undermine India in its own neighborhood remains as long as China's economic capacity.
not say much. One point that I should like to point out is that there must be an innovative way to collaborate among three communities: the Filipino, Taiwanese, Japanese. You may or may not be aware there has been absolutely no interaction, no collaboration, no cooperation between the Taiwanese military and the Japanese. We must be more innovative. And to be innovative takes courage, bold, and it is very much important for us, Filipinos, Taiwanese, Japanese, to have the kind of political leadership that can stand tall, no matter how intimidating and bullish the Chinese are. But pragmatically speaking, the fact that there's no dialogue, collaboration between the Taiwanese military and the Japanese concerns me very.
Okay, thank you. And Honorable Jason Kenny, you would like to say something?
Give me a question again.
About the Chinese, the Chinese economy, the problems they are facing right now, as well as the political and the military leadership bridging that's also going on. How would Canada assess those developments, and would those actions in China affect the Chinese action toward Canada?
Well, they have. Look, they've been imposing all sorts of arbitrary sanctions on us for political reasons, and even sort of collateral damage, if you will, in the U.S.-China trade disputes. But my own view is that there is a fundamental weakness in the regime. We've all known this for a long time. I think it's coming to a head, and I'm by no means an unmitigated fan of President Trump, but I think he deserves great credit for having identified the strategic threat posed by Xi's leadership, and I hope the Americans in these trade negotiations with the PRC and the potential imposition of secondary tariffs for PRC's cooperation with Putin, I hope the Americans don't lose heart. I'm a little concerned that there are some of the kind of Wall Street types of the administration, Secretary Bessent, Secretary Lutnick, who are whose primary constituency is Wall Street and the bond markets, who desperately want economic peace with China. But I hope the president follows his instincts on this and keeps up the pressure, and I think that will accelerate the very deep internal economic problems that the PRC is facing.
Thank you. You want to say something, Ambassador?
Yeah, because I just spoke 8 minutes, I have 2 more minutes to. I think the one advantage of being Taiwanese is here in Taiwan we could watch China closely and know the real situation. Recently, I talked to a company boss, a Taiwanese company who invests in China for decades, and I asked him the current situation. He said that he continue his company's operation in China, but he will not increase investment. He said he will stay in China as long as he could continue making profits, but he knows there's a risk if he get deeper in China. So he will not increase any investment. I think that that explains why in the past few years you see that the Taiwanese investment in China decreased, but the Taiwanese trade with China continue. Okay, but in the long term, I think that China is still in recession. This is a very, very important signal, to us. But on the other hand, if you look at China's leadership, And whether Xi Jinping and the CCP is in a very strong and solid position, I think so far still yes. So this make this region extremely dangerous, because when they have domestic economic problem, but on the other hand, they try to maintain a very strong and a solid, a rule in the society. This will make them more aggressive. Yeah. But so far, I think that most countries in this region, I mean in Asia, they consider the current strategic situation as a strategic rivalry between China and the U.S. And particularly for small countries, they don't want to take risk. As long as they can benefit from doing business with China and the U.S., they will continue to maintain relations with both sides. But Taiwan has no choice. Taiwan has no option. What Taiwan can do? Of course, that we still do business with China, but China is never our friend. And the U.S. we know that this current situation. That is why I didn't say earlier, but right now I want to say I hope that particular countries like India could play a more important role, in enhancing the security situation in the region. And of course, Japan already do. Yeah, but other big powers, particularly India, I think is important.
Yeah, thank you, Ambassador. And I think that with the Trump tariff that's about to impose on a lot of countries, the economic relationship with China definitely will be changed. So that is a new factor we have to factor in. That hasn't really hit anybody yet. So yes, I'm sorry for only left about the 22 minutes for people to ask questions, but please don't be shy. That raise your hand so that I can see you. All right, I saw several hands. There are these hands here from the gentleman. Those are the hands there. So these two, please.
Jason Chen of Formosa Republican Association. I have a question for Mr. Taniguchi. You mentioned your concern in your last comment. I would like to know if you have any suggestion to overcome your concern and make improvements of the situation. Thank you.
Thank you, moderator. This is Domingo Yang from NDSR. I have a question for Professor Taniguchi. Thank you, sir, for your wonderful remarks. I think it is reported that the U.S. government, Bridge Kobe, has requested Japan and Australia to clarify their roles and responsibilities during Taiwan contingency. I wonder what is your observations about what are the more constructive ways for the middle powers in this region to really talk about this question of contingency planning and to really push forward this agenda by bringing Taiwan's participation. If military drills are too sensitive, what about defense industry? What about information sharing and the whole of society resilience so that we can work collaboratively about this contingency planning? Thank you.
Thank you. We also have a gentleman, I think it's from Ukraine, right?
Indeed. Svetoslav Yurash, youngest member of parliament of Ukraine. My question is about different flashpoints in Indo-Pacific region. The whole world was watching with the Cambodia-Thailand border conflict in recent weeks. But I'm very keen to hear your opinions about other potential flashpoints. As we have seen, for example, the Korean question, we've seen North Korean soldiers deployed in a Russian effort to take over our country. We know of countless civil wars that are spilling from Myanmar into different countries around it. We are the situation with the Philippines and constant encroachment by China on the territories they claim in South China Sea. We are remembering the fact that China is claiming the whole region of India, not all Pradesh. Not to mention the fact that these claims are yet to be relinquished by Republic of China in Taiwan itself. So I'm very keen to hear your opinions on the flashpoints in the Pacific region and what can be that trigger for the region as well as the Chinese invasion of Taiwan.
Sorry, but do you have anyone you want them to answer your question?
You have a fabulous panel full of different experts.
So you ask
and
everyone?
Basically, I'm sure each and every one of these experts can voice their opinion on these conflicts which in the Pacific region sadly are plentiful. Thank you very much. We are most honored to be here.
All right, right now we have 3 questions, 2 directly, directly to our very own Dr. Taniguchi, and the last one, I think that invite everyone on the podium to speak. So first the 2 questions to Dr. Taniguchi, and then the one
I think it will be a tall order for the Royal Australian Navy to come to rescue Taiwan in times of real contingency. The role to be played by the so-called middle powers in your term in peacetime is to continue to send a powerful signal to the Chinese that, as I said, fulfilling Xi Jinping's version of Chinese dream will cost a lot. And in that sense, the engagement of India and engagement of the UK and others will also be very much important. When it comes to further enriched collaboration between the Taiwanese military and Japanese self-defense forces, one thing that Taiwanese and Japanese share together is this US military presence. And when it comes to US military presence, the host nation's role, that is to say Japan's role, will be very much important. So together with the United States, I think Japan must start the kind of collaboration needed between the Taiwanese and Japanese, perhaps in a low-profile way. Be aware that in Japan, political landscape discourse daily has been under the increasing influence of the Chinese. An increasing number of business leaders voice that we must be more careful in dealing with the Chinese. So it takes a lot of political courage. Nonetheless, the Japanese must start thinking about that by taking advantage of the fact that the Japanese and Americans have been very close. Now, let me say a little bit about the flashpoints. Yes, there are many flashpoints. The fact that the hurdle for using military force has been lowered tremendously, I think has ignited such exchanges of hostilities that you see between Cambodia and Thailand. But for the entire world, the most important flashpoint is here. Don't just forget that Taiwan is the most important element when you think about the international order and the vast stretch of the Indo-Pacific region.
Thank you. And then probably I'll start with Gloria. You want to say something about a question in the one? About a flashpoint.
Reinforce what Taniguchi-san was saying. It's really a principled flashpoint. When you have Philippines and the Chinese border, maritime border, and you have the Indo-China-Himalayan border, which is where actually the confrontations have been going on. So therefore, I think we shouldn't bring in every little incident. I mean, what happened between Thailand and Cambodia, I mean, it's not on Chinese front. So therefore, you've got to distinguish between different flashpoints. So I would say, could include Japan-China maritime border. So you have the East China Sea, the South China Sea, the Taiwan Strait, and the Himalayan border. These are the 4 theaters where it's not just being a flashpoint, cross attention, but the Chinese salami tactics of constantly changing ground reality, even as recently in the last few weeks, a situation has changed in Philippines. So I think that is the real danger for those of us on China's periphery and not just
one single flashpoint. But for Taiwan, it's an existential question. But for others, there is a constant Chinese assertiveness that keeps altering the territorial status quo in violation of every single norm of international affairs.
And I agree. I think they'll calibrate their policy to avoid a flashpoint that would attract a kinetic response or American intervention, just through very carefully calibrated incremental aggression in the South China Sea and this region. And it's what we call the frog in the pot syndrome, that people, we won't notice strategically that they're increasing aggression year after year, month after month, year after year. But if I just wanted to pick up on what our Ukrainian colleagues reminded us of, that what's going on in Ukraine is not just an abstract and different, distant interest, pardon me, to Asia. Asia is involved in that war. North Korean soldiers are fighting on Ukrainian territory right now with Chinese and North Korean armaments. The Russian military has essentially totally expended its post-Soviet deposits of weapons. And yes, they've stood up a new war economy that's producing a lot of equipment. But they could not sustain the war in Ukraine without the logistical and munitions support that they're getting, enormous support from 2 Asian countries. So I think that it's time for NATO and Western countries to realize that Asia is involved. 2 Asian countries are involved in invading a peaceful European country right now, and that demands an appropriate response.
Thank you. My view is that actually 3 Asian countries involved. China provides everything, including the military hardware in Ukraine, on the war in Ukraine. So yes, China is not a single specter there. And then we have another round of questions. Please raise your hands if you like. Yeah, the first one here, and also there will be another one. Okay, yeah.
Hello everyone, I'm Dominic Yang from the University of Missouri in the United States. I work in the history department. Great panel. I have a question for all the panelists. Now, maybe this issue will be discussed in the afternoon, but I would like to hear from every one of you if it's possible. Now, you guys talk about that there needs to be more collaboration amongst the maritime democracies. Now, the issue I'm talking about is actually domestic issue, social media, Chinese infiltration, because I think for me, that's the most important, because we're all democracies, and in comparison to an authoritarian regime, we have our particular vulnerability is really the power of that authoritarian regime to shape our public opinion. And for us to actually work together militarily and strategically on military front, we need the support of majority of our citizens. So my question is that, is there any talk about collaboration in terms of experience of how each and every country actually deal with this threat? I know, we all have different history, we all have different culture, and language-wise, the Chinese will influence us differently. I just want to hear from the panelists about this. So that's my question. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. And then with the dignitaries.
Thank you. I'm Anjanette. I'm the ambassador of the Republic of the Marshall Islands. It's truly a pleasure to be here this morning. And my question is to Dr. Komahiko. And I want to get your thoughts on what you think the role, what your thoughts are on the trend that we're seeing in the Pacific with the increased influence of China, and what that means in terms of security for the Indo-Pacific region. And perhaps the second question would be to everyone on the panel. What do you feel is the role of Pacific Island countries in this evolving security architecture in the Indo-Pacific region? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador. I think that's also the question Taiwan would like to pose to our audience and the panelists. So, would like to go first? Would like to? I think it's about the social media, interference campaign by China and how you're going to deal with it, if I do not understand it. Okay, I understand correctly?
Countries that has been has been barraged by all the disinformation. It's actually starting to be very, very daunting for the Filipinos to be reading through all the disinformation about our president, the first family, or even some in the legislature and the bureaucracy as well. In fact, Congress tried to legislate the issues of disinformation, but it's like fighting against a very informal group, but very powerful. So what we're currently doing is really to educate our people. That disinformation is something that is in our midst already. And as I said, the last election, the midterm election of the Philippines was one where disinformation was really massive, and that's why we came up with the conclusion that it's something that the digital space has been weaponized already. On that note, we are doing a lot in terms of education in our country on how news should be carried in the airspace, but social media is one of the area that is so difficult to control.